You wake slowly, as if the world itself has taken a breath and paused to watch you rise. The palace of Naparta holds its cool in the early hour. Thick sandstone walls keep the desert heat at bay, and long shadows pool across the mosaic floor. Outside, the Nile whispers, steady and eternal, carrying reed boats and distant cries of fishermen. A servant slips into the chamber without a sound. He carries a golden basin. The water inside glitters like a captured piece of sky. "Great one," he murmurs, voice low and respectful. "Your bed is a platform of carved wood inlaid with ivory, the linens folded with quiet care." A curtain stirs across the window as a breeze threads through the room, carrying the faint scent of lotus and distant smoke. You sit for a long moment, feeling the weight of the day settle around your shoulders like a familiar mantle. In this pause you gather the inward things: patience, memory, measured anger, and the simple hunger to do what must be done. Naparta will expect decisions. Your people will expect bread. Your gods will expect ritual. For now, the palace keeps its hush, and you let the silence steady you, like water finding its level beneath a stone. After purification comes scent. Attendants work with practiced hands, pulling tiny vials from lacquered boxes. Oils are warmed, mixed with myrrh, cassia, and rarer substances brought from distant shores, a trader's secret distilled into a single drop. The fragrances cling to your skin, soft as prayer beads, carrying stories of caravan routes, of cedar from Lebanon and resin from Punt. Linen is laid out with exacting care. A simple white kilt of the finest flax, its threads woven by women whose names may never be written, and a broad sash of dyed cloth that marks rank more eloquently than speech. Your attendants braid a thin cord of gold into your hair, place protective amulets against your chest, and fit the heavy necklace that rests warm on your collarbone. Each motion is choreographed. Each pause has meaning. You close your eyes and let the ritual wash over you. The oils banish sleep, but foster a clear, deliberate feeling. The body prepared, the mind sharpened, and the soul tuned to the cadence of offerings and oaths. It is, you understand, another kind of armor. The double crown awaits, a composite of Egypt's red and white, of two lands joined by purpose and ambition. When the crown is lifted, you feel its weight, literal and symbolic, settle over your brow. You think of your ancestors in Kush, of royal lines traced in bronze, of priests who read omens beside sacred fires. Your reflection in a polished bronze mirror is almost unrecognizable. This face will be painted and inscribed into stone. Yet your hands remain calloused from the hunt and from distant campaigns. You remember the feel of spear hafts and the sharp winter wind. The crown narrows the horizon of private life and widens the map of responsibility. Around you, attendants move with a tender firmness, steadying the cloth that will hang in precise folds, fastening the sandals that will carry you through dust and marble alike. For all its ritual, kingship is a constant negotiation between the human body and the idea of divinity. Every breath must be measured as if the gods themselves listen. The great hall opens like a mouth carved from stone. Colonnades march upward, their capitals painted in faded blues and ochres. Banners hang, their fringe whispering with the secrets of past treaties and battles. The council is assembled, commanders in leather and bronze, their hands scarred by spear and chariot, scribes with reed pens tucked behind their ears, priests who have listened to the gods and kept them waiting for your direction. You enter and the room is silenced, every eye drawn, every breath held. Speeches are measured like arrows. A single mis-worded clause might unravel a long-negotiated alliance. Your advisors lay before you maps inked on papyrus, lists of supply, and terse reports of shifting loyalties along the Nile. Here you are both judge and general, priest and custodian. The decisions you make ripple across harvests, marriages, and the husks of future tomb inscriptions. You sit, nod once, and the slow work of governance begins. Outside, Naparta hums with preparation. Markets fold into orderly mayhem as men seal packs of grain and oil. Blacksmiths hammer until the air rings. Camels are loaded with supplies marked by your seal. The smell of baking bread mixes with the acrid tang of pitch, the sounds of children watching with wide, curious eyes. You walk among these scenes in disguise sometimes, to feel the pulse of your people. Today you stay visible, a deliberate beacon. Craftsmen bring forward weapons and plowshares, priests bless wagons, and mothers tie extra cloth into their bundles for safe passage. There is a choreography to leaving. Who leads, which stores come, which wells hold their water for the march. Your stewards count barley and olive oil in measured stacks. Your quartermaster traces the route along the river, noting bridges, shoals, and the small, unmarked paths where trouble could wait. A ruler moves as both planner and sentinel. In the temple precinct, the air is cool and thick with incense. Priests move with balletic precision. Their fingernails are stained dark with coal, their voices low and even. The statue of Amun-Ra dominates the chamber, carved with a serene, timeless face and a crown that seems to hold the sky. You step forward, and the high priest places a reed wreath upon your brow, whispering words that feel older than stone and softer than breath. Offerings are presented: breads, tiny bowls of beer, folded linen, and the first fruits from nearby orchards. Here, rule is not merely political. It is an act of cosmic renewal. You pour libations, speak the names of distant towns, and let the priest translate the god's favor into a tangible plan. The people will see the ritual as confirmation. Soldiers will read it as blessing. Rivals will feel the steady pulse of divine backing. This is power given shape, and you give it thanks. Night falls and the palace becomes a map of moving lamps. You sit with a small circle of trusted advisors. A portable ink palette blinks as reed pens move to and fro. A scribe lays out letters already penned, to neighboring chiefs, to mercantile partners along the Red Sea, to captains who command the narrow boats that ply the Nile's spine. Words here are chosen like arrows, promises of grain, offers of safe passage, veiled threats where needed. Strategies are recorded and copied, because permanence in ink steadies the flux of politics. Outside, a distant flute plays a soft, wandering melody. Inside, plans take sharp, clean form. You sign a document with a practiced hand, seal it in wax with your emblem, and the messenger is chosen. Alliances are delicate. A wrong marriage or a misread gift can tilt a whole province toward rebellion. You sleep lightly, with one ear tuned for the footsteps that might break the night. You travel slowly at first. The caravan is an orchestra of motion. Horses snort and shift, camels sway beneath loaded packs, and the river shore gleams as reed boats are readied. The horizon is a study in subtle color, the Nile reflecting copper and brass. As you move, the landscape changes from the deep ochres of Nubian soil to the pale sands that mark the delta's edge. Your commanders run signals, scouts fan outward like patient hands, and traders watch caravan movement with a mixture of curiosity and calculation common to them. Each river bend is a question, each small village a potential ally or pocket of resistance. You pause at shaded groves to taste the cool water, listen to whispers of news, and trade a few words with boatmen who bring stories from further north. Travel becomes its own ritual, a slow, steady procession that binds your realm together step by measured step. Crossing into Egyptian territory is a lesson in symbolism and caution. The architecture begins to change. Taller pylons, more ornate stelae, sphinxes that keep a slow, watchful gaze. Local administrators test your patience with procedure. Temple priests offer veiled grievances about neglect and hubris. Yet you find that religion is a bridge. Many gods are the same, their names wearing different robes in different towns. You present offerings at painted temples where pigments still cling to stone, and priests accept your gifts with measured nods. Your banners are proclaimed in marketplaces, and small burghers debate the smell of your incense. For every forum that greets you with bread, there may be another where whispers of revolt sow doubts. You move with the double concern of diplomat and commander, keeping watch for the small signs that tell the story of welcome or warning. As months become campaigns, your name spreads across barley fields and along river quays. Monuments are planned. Stoneworkers sketch reliefs where Nubian and Egyptian forms blend. Pharaohs with Kushite eyes and Egyptian headdresses, with hieroglyphs and Meroitic marks entwined. In courts and temples, poets are asked to sing a new story, one of restoration, of rightful worship, of a ruler who brings order to chaos. Yet military reality presses on. Supply lines must be guarded, garrisons placed in key towns, and scouts kept active. You sign edicts that shape daily life. Tariffs, market days, the timing of offerings. Small levers with enormous weight. In quiet moments, you think of the future carved in stone. Temples humming with prayers, granaries that outlast drought, laws that bend toward justice. Power is less a destination than a slow, patient architecture that you build with many hands, across many years. The great council chamber rises in hushed grandeur. Columns shaped like open papyrus stalks climb toward a painted ceiling, their capitals bursting with green and blue hues. Light falls in slender shafts from clerestory windows, catching the pigments of wall paintings. Scenes of ancestors crowned by the gods, warriors triumphant, harvests delivered with joy. Your throne, carved from ebony and wrapped in sheets of gold, gleams like a living fire at the center of it all. Its arms curve into lion heads, guardians of power and vigilance. Your advisors prostrate themselves, their foreheads pressed to the cool stone floor. When you raise your hand, silence deepens. When your voice commands, "Rise," it echoes between the columns, sounding larger than life. The meeting begins. Maps are unrolled, scrolls opened, and questions sharpen like spearheads. A pharaoh's task is not ease, it is balance. Every decision carries the weight of crops, temples, and war. And today, all three crowd close at once. Your general Tianak steps forward. His hands unfurl a great papyrus map. Its ink strokes crisp and purposeful. "Divine One," he says, pointing with a reed pen. "Egypt is fractured. Memphis, Thebes, Heracleopolis, each in the grip of rival princes. You study the lines and markings, noting how a once mighty land has splintered. Once Egypt ruled Nubia, but now it is Nubia that gathers strength, poised to restore order where others failed." The high priest speaks next, his voice measured. At Karnak, the priests whisper of neglect. Rituals have faltered. The gods turn their eyes away. You nod. This collapse is more than politics. It is a wound in Ma'at, the sacred balance of truth and order. You must not appear as invader, but as restorer. Every arrow loosed, every decree signed, must wear the clothing of divine duty. The names echo in your mind. Memphis, Thebes, Heracleopolis. Each once a jewel in the crown of Egyptian kings. Now, each claims its own ruler, bickering like siblings over broken inheritance. Farmers suffer while princes scheme. Shrines grow dusty while priests barter influence. The third intermediate period, historians will call it, an age of fragmentation. Yet for you it is opportunity. Nubia, long overshadowed, now stands ascendant. Where Egypt once stretched its hand southward in dominance, the hand now trembles. The Nile, eternal, flows north as always, but the authority that guided it is broken. You see it clearly. To march north is to heal. To take the crown is not ambition, but destiny shaped by divine command. The council murmurs in agreement. Even cautious voices cannot deny the truth. Egypt waits for a shepherd, and you are ready to walk into that role. The high priest lowers his head respectfully. At Karnak, the gods grow restless. Rituals are neglected. Offerings come late. Order frays. The temple of Ammonius at Karnak, most sacred of all, cries out for renewal. Its columns rise like a forest of stone, its walls carved with hymns that once thundered with devotion. If you enter Egypt as conqueror, you will be met with resistance. But if you enter as restorer, guardian of the old ways, the priests themselves will throw open the gates. You envision the chants, the smoke of incense rising once more. The people gathered in awe. This is not invasion. It is redemption. The priest's words fall like oil upon the wheels of your plan, smoothing the path ahead. The gods themselves, it seems, lean toward your cause. The discussion shifts to your army. The bowmen of Cush, famed across the ancient world, stand ready. Their arrows fly farther than most can believe, feathers steady, bows tall as men. These archers are your pride, the iron backbone of your campaign. Along the walls of the hall they stand at attention, faces impassive, muscles honed from years of training beneath desert suns. Travelers tell tales of Cushite arrows piercing shields at impossible distances. To see them arrayed in formation is to glimpse precision forged into flesh and sinew. Yet even with such strength, you know military might alone is not enough. Victory requires both the bowstring and the blessing. The high priest speaks again. The oracle at Jebel Barkal has spoken. The gods favor your campaign. You close your eyes, picturing the mountain's flat top, the stone pinnacle rising like a cobra poised to strike. At its base lies a temple older than memory, where both Nubians and Egyptians kneel before Ammonius. The oracle's voice, carried through trance and chant, confirms what your heart already knows. Without divine sanction, power is brittle. With it, power is inevitable. You breathe deeply. The sacred mountain stands behind you, its shadow long across the desert, a silent ally in stone. When do we march north, you ask? Your general bows. With the next full moon, divine one. The river will rise, and our ships will carry the army swiftly. You nod. The timing feels auspicious. The moon's cycle, the river's flood, the gods' decree, all align. In war, logistics matter as much as courage. Grain must move as surely as arrows. Ships must glide as surely as chariots roll. You sense the rhythm of the world aligning. Nature, faith, and human will. The council bows in unison. The decision is set. At last the council draws to its end. The maps are rolled away, scrolls tied with string, wax seals pressed with your emblem. Generals bow low, priests fold their hands, scribes collect their pens. One by one they depart the hall, their sandals whispering on stone floors. You remain seated on the golden throne, breathing in the echo of your own commands. Power, you realize, is not just spoken. It lingers in silence, in the way men leave the chamber with your words still shaping their thoughts. When the hall is empty, you stand, the lions of your throne watching with carved patience. Before you can rest, another duty calls. Temple awaits. Offerings must be made, prayers spoken, incense lifted. For a pharaoh, there is no separation between throne and altar. Every decision of state must be mirrored in ritual. As you step outside, the air carries the perfume of lotus and the faint cry of night birds. The temple of Ammonius rises ahead, its pylons torchlit, its gate like a mouth ready to receive your vow. Attendants prepare trays of bread, jars of beer, and bowls of fruit. You are weary, but the gods do not wait. And so, you walk forward. Inside the temple, the air is cool and heavy with incense. Priests chant in low harmony, words blending like waves against stone. You lift a libation vessel, pouring water upon the altar. The gods are honored, balance is renewed. Only then, when the offerings are complete, can you return to the palace. Even there, sleep is shallow. The night is short, and dawn will bring more councils, more rituals, more decisions. A pharaoh's life is not rest but responsibility, worn as crown and chain alike. Yet within that burden lies purpose. Within duty lies meaning. Your day unfolds like a sacred script, each step written by centuries of tradition. From the hall of council, you rise again, attendants forming a protective circle as you move toward the palace gates. Outside, the heat meets you like a wall. Even before midday, the air trembles above the stone streets, shivering waves bending the horizon. Citizens line the path, kneeling as you pass. To them you are not man but God made flesh. A child bows low, clutching a lotus stem. An old woman whispers a blessing as her forehead touches the dust. Every gesture feeds into the cycle of belief, their survival bound to your favor, their hardship explained by your displeasure. You walk slowly, never hurrying, each movement heavy with divine significance. For even the pace of your stride is a sermon. As you walk, the truth of kingship weighs heavier than gold. You are seen not only as ruler, but as conduit between heaven and earth. If the Nile rises, the people say it is your blessing. Fields fail, they say it is your fault. Such faith is a crown sharper than any metal. You lift your chin, remembering what your ancestors taught. Kingship is less about privilege than about endurance. You must hold the faith of thousands upon your shoulders without faltering. To show weakness is to invite doubt. To stumble is to unbalance the world itself. And so, your walk is measured, your expression calm. Your silence, even under the crushing heat, speaks louder than words. The procession winds deeper into the heart of Nepeta, your capital. Mud brick homes cluster like honeycombs, their roofs flat and shaded with reed mats. Nobles' houses rise grander in stone, their courtyards planted with sycamore and palm. The streets pulse with markets, merchants shouting over stalls of ivory and ostrich feathers, traders displaying gold dust in small linen bags, artisans shaping beads of carnelian and turquoise. Spices from distant lands perfume the air. Cinnamon, frankincense, resin from Arabia. Drums beat in the distance, punctuated by the bray of donkeys and the lowing of cattle. This city, at the crossroads of Africa's trade routes, is more than a home. It is the engine of your kingdom, the purse that fills your armies, the stage from which your greatness steps outward. You pause briefly, gazing at stalls where the wealth of continents converges. Gold from the eastern desert gleams in sunlight. Tusks of ivory lean like pale towers against wooden frames. Traders display jars of honey, bundles of rare woods, nuggets of malachite and lapis, their colors glowing like frozen sky and earth. Such riches are not mere ornaments. They are lifeblood. Every coin funds armies. Every ingot builds temples. Every stone carves your name deeper into eternity. Children tug at their mothers' sleeves to glimpse you, their voices hushed. For them, you are living proof that this wealth is guided by divine will. You walk on, but the image of your city's bounty lingers. The temple of Ammonius rises ahead, towering pylons etched with carved reliefs of gods and kings. Flags whip lazily from tall poles, their colors fading but still proud. The walls glow pale against the darker roofs of nearby homes, an unmistakable beacon of power. Priests gather in neat rows, clad in white linen robes, incense burners raised high, their smoke curling into the bright sky. The people fall silent as you near, bowing until foreheads touch the ground. The temple is not only stone, it is the heartbeat of your kingdom, a channel through which heavens will flows into earthly command. Crossing the threshold, you are enveloped in cool shadow. The air is thick with the fragrance of burning resin and lotus. Sunlight filters only in thin shafts through high, narrow slits, spotlighting dust motes that dance like tiny spirits. The walls bear painted scenes of kings kneeling before gods, their colors muted but powerful. Your sandals fall softly on polished stone. The murmurs of priests fill the space, low and hypnotic, a steady rhythm that drowns out the noise of the outer world. Here, even kings must walk with humility. At the heart of the temple rests the sacred bark of Ammonius, a golden model boat, its sides inlaid with lapis, turquoise, and ivory. Upon it rides the spirit of the god himself. Only the highest may approach. You step forward, attendants hanging back. The high priest bows deeply, then gestures for the ritual to begin. Offerings are brought forth. Baskets of figs, jars of beer, fine linens, small statuettes of precious metal. The bark glows in the filtered light, alive with divinity. You raise your hands in reverence. For this moment, you are not merely ruler. You are mediator, binding heaven to earth. The high priest begins the long chant, his voice echoing in Nubian first, then in Egyptian. Each word strikes deep, honoring both heritages. You kneel, arms raised, and echo the invocations. The prayers weave together like two rivers joining, languages distinct but meaning shared. You feel the weight of generations within the words, the gods listening as both Nubian and Egyptian hearts beat in unison. In this duality lies your strength, not as stranger or conqueror, but as son of two lands, chosen to unite them. The ritual stretches long into the hours. You stand unmoving, lifting arms in precise gestures, holding sacred vessels, repeating words without falter. The regalia weighs heavy. Golden collars dig into shoulders, the crown presses against brow, sandals bite against the heat of stone. Yet no strain may show. A god cannot tire. A king cannot wince. Sweat runs down your back, hidden beneath layers of linen. Your muscles burn, but your face is serene. The ritual is more than devotion. It is discipline, the training of body and spirit to appear immortal. At last, the high priest turns, his voice loud and clear. Ammonius has spoken. He blesses your northern campaign. You are his chosen one, restorer of worship in the two lands. The words echo in the sanctuary, rebounding from carved walls. Priests fall prostrate, attendants bow low. You lower your arms, heart steady, face calm. The campaign is no longer merely planned. It is sanctified. The God himself has declared it righteous. As you leave the temple, the torches flare, and outside the people cheer. A new tide rises in the veins of your kingdom. The high priest's words still echo as you step from the temple. Ammonius has spoken. You are chosen. Sunlight blinds after the cool shadows of the sanctuary. The crowd surges with joy, their cheers rolling like waves across the plaza. To them, the oracle's blessing is more than ritual. It is proof that the gods themselves stand behind you. Your campaign will not be seen as conquest, but as restoration. With divine approval, every spear lifted in your name becomes sacred. Soldiers will march with unshakable conviction. Priests will sanctify each victory. And the people will tell their children that the gods themselves declared your destiny. You take a long breath of the hot air, the weight of doubt lifted from your chest. The world feels newly steady, the path ahead illuminated. A pavilion has been prepared in the central plaza, its roof shaded with woven mats and supported by carved wooden poles. You take your seat upon a raised throne while guards secure the perimeter. Today, ordinary people may approach, not closely but close enough to speak. For many, this moment will be the only time they glimpse their living God face to face. Farmers, merchants, and village headmen step forward one by one. Some tremble, some weep, all bow deeply before speaking. They bring their hopes and grievances. A boundary dispute, a petition for trade rights, reports of distant provinces. Each voice carries the weight of a community behind it. Each judgment you give will ripple outward through the land like the Nile's flood. Among the petitions, one case stands out. Two village headmen approach, their voices sharp with resentment. They argue bitterly over water rights, their people desperate for access to irrigation channels. You listen carefully, allowing each to speak. Your advisors lean in, expecting you to favor the more powerful of the two men. Instead, you surprise them. You decree that both villages shall share access, but you bind them with a new command. They must labor together to build an improved irrigation system. In this way, both will benefit, and conflict will be transformed into cooperation. A murmur ripples through your council. Even your generals nod with admiration. Justice, after all, is not always about power, it is about wisdom. The decision spreads swiftly through the plaza. The Divine One is wise beyond measure, murmurs one advisor. Others nod in agreement. You allow a faint smile, but inside, you understand the greater truth. Rulership is not won by crowns or armies alone. It is secured by fairness remembered, by judgments repeated in distant fields, by stories mothers tell their children at night. Your wisdom today may preserve loyalty tomorrow. Egypt to the north crumbles under feuding princes. Nubia, under your hand, remains steady and strong. You are not only preparing for war, you are building a legacy of justice that will endure beyond the clash of armies. By now, the sun blazes overhead, a fiery crown on the sky. The temperature soars, the air shimmering like molten glass. Servants wave great fans of ostrich feathers, stirring only the faintest breeze. Even so, sweat gathers beneath your golden collar. Ordinary men would retire to cool chambers at such an hour. But a pharaoh has no luxury of pause. The duties of kingship run through day and night, relentless as the river. As the last petitioner withdraws, another task already calls. Foreign envoys wait with gifts and words from distant lands. The envoys are led forward with great ceremony. Their clothing differs from your own, woven with patterns unfamiliar, dyed in hues brought from distant markets. They bow deeply, touching their foreheads to the ground before presenting their treasures. First come jars of rare spices, their scent drifting sweet and sharp into the air. Then finely woven textiles, dyed in colors as rich as gemstones. Last, a gilded cage containing birds with plumage so radiant they seem painted by the gods themselves. The crowd gasps softly at the sight. Such wonders remind all who see them that your reach extends far beyond the borders of Nubia. In response, you bestow treasures of your own. Gold, the sun's flesh, drawn from mines of the desert. Ivory, smooth and pale, carved into delicate forms. Pottery painted in Nubian style, each vessel both useful and beautiful. The exchange is more than courtesy. It is ritual, a weaving of ties. Each gift binds foreign hands to yours, each treasure a promise of friendship and alliance. Such exchanges ensure not only wealth but safety, for a kingdom encircled by allies is stronger than one armed by spears alone. When the gifts are exchanged, the real work begins. The envoys speak carefully, proposing terms of expanded trade. Tariffs, routes, and safe passage are discussed in deliberate detail. You listen, weighing each word, balancing generosity with authority. Raiders along the desert paths threaten caravans, and mutual defense becomes a key topic. Agreements formed here will ripple across seas and deserts, shaping how goods and people move for years to come. You know that a sword may seize wealth once, but trade secures it for generations. As the negotiations continue, the exotic birds in their cage sing with strange voices, their feathers shimmering like molten emerald and sapphire. Children in the crowd crane their necks, pointing with wide eyes. Even your generals, hardened by campaigns, pause to admire. Such creatures are more than curiosities. They are symbols of your kingdom's connections, proof that Nubia stands at the center of a world far larger than Egypt alone. To command such wonders is to command respect. By the time the meeting draws to a close, the air is thick with incense and the scent of spices. The envoys bow again, satisfied with the day's accords. In their eyes you read respect and something deeper. They see not just a king, but a pharaoh with a god's blessing, a ruler who commands armies and treasures alike. As they withdraw, your court murmurs approval. Trade routes will be safer, alliances firmer, and your treasury fuller. With every pact sealed today, your march north grows stronger. War will be waged not only with spears, but with alliances, gifts, and faith. As the envoy withdraws, your steward leans close, voice soft but insistent. Divine One, the royal architect awaits. A sigh threatens to rise in your chest, though you swallow it. Kingship is not only ceremony and war, it is also administration without end. Each moment brings new responsibilities, each task a stone in the endless wall of empire. You nod, and the architect steps forward, bowing deeply. With care, he unfurls long papyrus scrolls upon the polished floor, their inked lines and symbols blooming like rivers across the page. The architect gestures reverently at his plans. Towering pylons, columned halls, sanctuaries carved in alignment with the stars. The central sanctuary, he explains, will greet the rising sun on the day of your coronation. His finger traces the delicate geometry, lines of power joining heaven to earth. You study the drawings in silence. These are no mere buildings. They are earthly mirrors of divine order, anchors of harmony between gods and mortals. Approving such visions is to command eternity itself. Last you nod. Begin at once. The architect bows until his forehead touches the floor. Scribes rush to record your decree. Builders will soon quarry stone, artisans will ready their chisels, and thousands of laborers will lend their sweat to raise monuments that will outlast their names. These temples will not only honor the gods, They will proclaim your reign to generations unborn. Your empire will not merely live in memory. It will live in stone. When the scrolls are gathered, you step outside. The sun is lowering now, spilling golden fire across your capital. Its rays strike the river, turning the waters into a molten path. Children run in the courtyards, merchants close their stalls, priests light lamps in temple courtyards. For a moment you pause, breathing in the evening air. Yet even this beauty cannot soften the truth. Another duty awaits. Your generals are gathered in council, and the matter is war. The council chamber is heavy with silence. Guards secure every entrance. Torches cast shadows against stone walls. Upon a wide table lie maps marked with red and black ink. Your generals stand in a semicircle, their armor gleaming faintly in the firelight. Each bows deeply before you take your seat. This is no ritual audience. Here every word carries the weight of thousands of lives. Your commander steps forward, finger tracing a line along the papyrus map. The Nile will be our highway. The main force sails north, swift and unstoppable. Smaller units march along the banks, securing villages and fords. His words are steady, but the plan is bold. Rivers carry both promise and danger, speed, yes, but also exposure. Your eyes narrow as you consider the risks. Another general speaks. Our scouts report Egypt's forces are divided, fractured by rival claimants and bickering nobles. They are unprepared for unity. His voice carries cautious confidence. Yet you know better than to underestimate a cornered foe. Egypt's history is long, its resilience proven. You raise questions of supply lines, allies among noble houses, and plans for resistance fiercer than expected. Your generals exchange glances, impressed by your precision. You are not only a king of ritual, you are a commander of war. The council concludes not with words, but with ritual. A great cup of wine is brought forth, carved with sacred images. Each general drinks in turn, their lips brushing the rim. When all have shared, they raise their voices together. For Ammonius Ra, and for the divine Pharaoh. The chamber vibrates with their pledge. Their loyalty is no longer spoken, it is sworn. At last, the council disperses. You retreat to your chambers, where attendants lift the heavy crown from your brow. Golden regalia is replaced with light linen robes. The weight of command lessens, if only slightly. A banquet of roasted meats, fruits, and bread is set before you, each dish carefully tested for poison. The luxuries of kingship surround you, yet you partake with restraint. To cloud the mind now would be folly. As you eat, scribes kneel nearby, reading aloud from reports and chronicles. News of distant provinces, records of past kings, lessons of victories and defeats. Their voices rise and fall like a river's current, weaving the past into the present. You listen, calm and thoughtful. Soon sleep will claim you. But for now, wisdom feeds your spirit as food sustains your body. Tomorrow brings fresh duties, and soon the march north. At last, night surrounds you. You step onto your private balcony, the desert air cooler, stars scattered like jewels above. The city lies hushed, save for the distant call of night birds. Beyond, the Nile gleams silver in the moonlight, winding northward toward the land you are destined to claim. For centuries, Egypt held dominion over Nubia. But now the tide has shifted. You will lead your people to reverse history itself, binding two civilizations beneath the rule of Kush. You gaze across the night and wonder what future generations will remember. Egypt's monuments have always drawn admiration. But Nubia too is ancient, rich, and cultured, with traditions, writing, and temples of its own. Yet history is not always fair. Future ages may overlook your people's achievements, remembering only Egypt's shadow. You cannot know this now. Your focus is on tomorrow's campaign. Still, the thought lingers, that destiny may bring triumph, yet history may tell a crooked tale. When sleep beckons, even rest is sacred ritual. Priests enter softly, chanting protective prayers as they place amulets near your bed. Symbols of power, eyes of Horus, scarabs of rebirth, Images of Ammonius surround you. You lie upon fine linen, but the weight of destiny presses heavier than gold. As the murmur of prayers fades, you close your eyes, surrendering to the stillness of the desert night. The whisper of palm leaves and the cool breath of the Nile lull you toward dreams. Your last waking thought lingers on destiny. You dream not of rest but of empire. Visions of the Nile stretch before you. Boats gliding north, temples rising under your hand, priests bowing, warriors raising their bows to the sun. The dream feels more real than waking life, a tapestry woven by the gods themselves. In this dream you are not merely a man. You are the living vessel of cosmic balance, chosen to restore Ma'at to the fractured lands of the Nile. Morning arrives swiftly. The first rays of the sun pierce your chamber window, painting the walls in pale gold. Attendants enter quietly, their voices low. The desert morning holds a fleeting peace before the day's demands. But this is no ordinary dawn. Today your campaign begins. The Nile waits, your armies assembled. The gods have given their blessing. History itself stirs awake with you. Once again purification begins. Sacred water poured from golden vessels over your hands, fragrant oils rubbed into your skin. But today the rituals feel heavier, charged with urgency. The priests chant longer, their tones rising like the wind before a storm. Each gesture, each word, prepares not only your body but your spirit for war. You are not simply Pi, son of Nubia. You are Pharaoh, divine protector, chosen warrior of Ammonius. Today's attire differs. Over fine linen, attendants fasten a breastplate of bronze scales, each shimmering as the sun strikes. The weight is reassuring, not just protection but a symbol. At your side, a sword is presented, its hilt of gold and ivory gleaming. You take it with solemnity. May Ammonius guide your blade, intones the high priest. Around you all bow deeply. You stand now not as priest-king alone, but as warrior pharaoh, embodiment of divine might. Outside, the scene is overwhelming. Row upon row of warriors stretch across the horizon. Shields glint, bronze spearheads catch the sun, banners ripple in the desert breeze. At the front stand your elite archers, the bowmen of Kush, their long bows towering above them. Renowned and feared, their arrows strike true at distances other armies cannot fathom. They kneel as you appear, then rise with thunderous cries. The ground itself seems to tremble with their loyalty. These soldiers are not only armed for battle, they are prepared in spirit. Many wear amulets carved with the falcon of Horus or the ram of Ammonius. Before dawn they fasted, prayed, and made offerings. Their strength comes not only from muscle but from faith. They see themselves as chosen instruments of the gods, called to restore Egypt to balance. As you walk among them, they touch the ground reverently, as though your footsteps sanctify the earth itself. Trumpets blare, drums thunder. The command is given. Thousands of feet stamp in unison, and the army begins its march toward the Nile. Boats wait at the river's edge, their sails ready to drink the wind. The campaign has begun. The air is thick with dust, sound, and destiny. You step forward at the head of your army, the double crown upon your head, the sword of kingship at your side. The long road to Egypt has opened, and history moves with you. Many of your warriors purified themselves in the Nile before dawn, dipping into the water in a rite older than any paperwork or decree. Amulets clink beneath leather and scale, tiny falcons of Horus, rams of Ammonius, scarabs of rebirth. Some paint their bodies with ochre bands and sacred motifs, protective patterns meant to steady the hand and remind the eye of gods who watch. Standards rise above the ranks. Bronze rams, falcons poised on poles, banners stitched with prayers and woven spells. Your general arrives, respectful and efficient. "Great one," he says. You rise and make for the river where the fleet waits like a sleeping forest of masts. Your royal barge is crafted as a moving temple, its hull painted with staring protective eyes, its cabin inlaid with lapis and ivory, gilded panels reflecting the sun. Talismans are carved along the rails, and the prow cleaves the water as if carved to part fate itself. As you step aboard, trumpets give a measured blast and musicians play low, steady tunes. Priests chant blessings till their voices warm. Sailors lash lines, hoist woven sails, and crews secure cargo. Men and women on the banks watch. Traders, fishermen, old men who remember earlier campaigns, children who will hear tales of this day. The royal standard flutters, and the first ripple of motion runs through the fleet. For a moment the sight feels like a benediction. People on the banks raise hands, and for a moment the centuries seem to fold, ancestors and descendants aligned with one breath. You settle into the journey with a steady heart. The first cataracts arrive not as a single hazard but as a long argument between rock and river. Narrow channels and jagged outcrops make navigation a test of skill and communal nerve. Captains order parts of some ships to be unloaded. Men jump into the shallows to haul bulky stores, ropes cutting into palms, boots scuffed on slick stone. Pilots in small skiffs dart between submerged boulders where larger hulls cannot pass, guiding, pushing, and trusting experience more than maps. You stand on your raised deck and watch the choreography. Crews singing work chants, voices deep and steady, their rhythm matched to the heave of oars. Priests at bow and stern mutter short invocations, knotting strips of linen to posts for protection. A captain slips, an oar catches and the deck tilts. A shout, a quick wrist, and the boat rights. Each near failure sharpens the sense that the river itself is a living being to be read and placated. At night, pilots hold station by lantern light, reading the stars and eddies together as if consulting a familiar, unpredictable book. Every safe passage becomes a story retold by the hearths, a stanza added to the songs of your campaign. The Egyptians believe these cataracts are a God-given gate. Your captains treat them as a partner, not a wall, learning the river's temper with respect and steady hands. Past the cataracts, the Nile breathes wider and life thickens along its banks. Reed islands give way to cultivated fields where farmers tend sorghum and barley. Small shrines peek from groves of tamarisk. Children race beside skiffs shouting challenges to boys on the bank. The shoreline is a layered story. Fishers mending nets, weavers laying reed mats to dry, potters turning clay into vessels that will hold beer and grain. Your stewards disembark to tally stores. Granaries checked, barrels of beer sealed, bundles of cloth labeled with the royal mark. Traders emerge, some wary, some welcoming. Bartered wares change hands, salt, linen, beads, and jars of fragrant oils. You order detachments left in several towns to secure supply points, mediate disputes, and repair neglected canals. A child presses a painted token into your steward's hand, a crude amulet from a broken pot, and you receive it with a nod. Small gestures like this comfort a family more than any ordinance can. You realize conquest is arithmetic of care. Seed, roads, water, and the measured motion of grain. Each small canal mended, each wheel that turns, grows into a promise of routine. In these human moments, the empire finds its fragile, patient backbone. Elephantine sits at the river's shoulder, a place of threshold and commerce, where travelers long pause to barter and pray. The garrison there is modest but disciplined. The commander is a man weathered by caravans and negotiations. Your herald announces your message. You come to restore Ma'at, not to raise. The commander convenes elders, priests, merchants, and captains. The town debates for a night under oil lamps while you hold your forces steady. Your restraint, permitting time for counsel. Puzzles determined captains, but mercy can be a strategic instrument. A town spared retains its craftspeople and priests. Its granaries feed both populace and garrison. By dawn, Elephantine sends terms. It will accept your suzerainty, preserve certain local offices, and host a small contingent to secure the ford. Priests from both traditions bless the crossing with offerings while drums echo the Nile's pulse. Markets reopen. Barbers resume their work. Children return to lessons under the courtyard's shade. The crossing becomes not an end but a beginning, sealed by ritual and practical accord. As you progress northward, a pattern emerges. Some towns open gates at the sight of your banners, others test resolve before yielding. Where governors choose cooperation, trade flows and kills warm again. In places where magistrates demand proof of strength, your commanders stage measured displays. Disciplined camps, nights of steady fires, archery demonstrations that show your bowman's reach. You insist always on practical repair. Bridges mended, storehouses restocked with seed, irrigation channels cleared. A millwright returns to a broken stone. A teacher reopens an open-air school. A mother plants with renewed confidence. These acts are small in a day's mouth, but in seasons they build stability. Quiet administration, ledgers balanced, canals cleared, and grain measures standardized, transforms fear into routine. You have learned that empire lives within the rhythms of planting and harvest, and that loyalty grows more often from steady work than from a single thunder of spears. In quieter hours aboard the flagship you speak with captains, caravan leaders, and local notables. Their faces are maps of long travel, fatigue and curiosity in equal measure. Old merchants weigh profit and the risk of tariffs. Captains describe unseen sandbars and hidden currents. A linen keeper speaks of scarce flax. You answer with policies born of listening. Patrols to deter bandits, fair requisitions to prevent soldiers preying on civilians, and the appointment of trusted local administrators who understand local rights and languages. Small human stories change big orders. A near mutiny soothed by a ration of grain. A recovered crate returned to its owner. An elder's myth that explains a town ritual you had misread. You write these details into practice. Empire, is woven from both the map and the whisper, from logistics and from empathy. When law aligns with lived custom, order holds with less strain and more cheer. Gradually, cultures begin to braid together. A potter fashions an amphora that marries Kushite geometric bands with a northern lotus motif. A town noble asks a Nubian artisan to knot his sash in a new style. Temple reliefs begin to show hybrid figures, Nubian profiles bearing Egyptian emblems. Small, meaningful signs that images can fold identity together. Bards and poets experiment too, composing hymns that borrow cadences from both tongues, and craftsmen make hybrid amulets that sell in multiple markets. You encourage these exchanges. Festivals where local priests and your own officiants share rites, commissions for public art, and joint workshops that require collaboration. These shared practices do what armies cannot. They soften resistance and invite citizens to see themselves not as conquered but as partners in a shared ritual life. The river people in time imagine themselves as members of a larger household with many rooms. Not every town accepts your approach. At a fortified place with thick mud brick walls, a defiant lord drums militias and raises a crude flag. From the parapets come shouts and taunts. Drums mark a cadence of defiance. Your commanders urge siege engines and fire, a spectacle intended to terrify. Yet you measure cost. A ruined town offers little to any victor. Instead you send envoys with terms: amnesty for those who lay down arms, land guarantees for cooperative families, and promises to repair communal property. Envoys sit beneath a truce banner, negotiating late into the night while scouts watch the walls. Skirmishes test patience, a raided granary, an outlying burned fence, but your archers avoid wanton slaughter, holding aim steady. Pride loosens when hunger sharpens judgment, and soon the battered gate opens with slow, weary creaks. When elders broker terms, your engineers survey walls and wells and artisans begin repairs. Mercy here is also reconstruction. Seed reserves protected, mills relit, and shared festivals planned to heal mistrust. The town breathes twice. While armies advance, bureaucracy follows like a careful tide. Scribes on your flagship unroll long papyrus rolls and record each new oath. Names of local chiefs, lists of tribute, and placements of garrisons. These lists are not sterile. They are the long memory of rule. You sign edicts standardizing grain measures to avoid extortion. You order relay stations so messages can cross the river fast. And you instruct that copies of decrees be held both at the capital and at lined way stations. You watch scribes bind scrolls with cords and stamp seals into warm wax. The neat columns of ink and the careful knots of cord mean that future governors cannot plausibly claim ignorance. Clear wording prevents quarrels. Redundancy is the backbone of accountability. In years to come, these scrolls will resolve disputes, confirm obligations, and bind the dispersed towns into a shared administrative life that outlasts immediate tempers. News comes that small bands of loyalist raiders and occasional temple insurgents still flicker upriver. Hit-and-run parties that steal cattle or burn an isolated granary. They are not an organized threat yet, but left unchecked they could seed wider rebellion. You dispatch mobile patrols, mounted scouts and swift archers who ride at dawn to intercept raiders and cut off rally points. At the same time, you send gifts to notable families in contested regions, tools to repair irrigation, seed reserves, and offers to sponsor shared festivals. The dual approach, deterrent force plus practical favor, begins to shift loyalties. Patrols reassure merchants and keep roads open. Craftsmen return to work, and granaries move again. Potters shape clay, bakers tend ovens, fishermen mend nets. With each low, steady turn of daily life, distant towns begin to imagine a horizon less full of fear and more full of markets and marriages. Ahead, the broad urban centers of the north draw nearer. There the final measures of mercy and rule will be tested, and the river widens again toward the great cities where history will measure you. You maintain a careful balance as you march north. Mercy for those who yield, stern justice for the stubborn. Local officials are spared if they swear loyalty, but garrisons that resist find themselves swiftly overwhelmed by your disciplined archers. Prisoners are not slaughtered in vengeance but put to work repairing canals, roads, and storehouses. Some grumble, but others whisper that this pharaoh brings not fire but order. It is a deliberate message. Conquest is only the beginning. True rule is what follows. Even your generals, seasoned in war, note that you wield patience as readily as the bow. Each city becomes a measure of your vision. Mercy, ritual, discipline. You know the Egyptians watch with careful eyes. You are determined that they see not a foreign invader but the rebirth of Ma'at, balance restored by steady hand. At last, the towering pylons of Thebes rise before you, their painted reliefs weathered yet proud. This is no ordinary city. It is the spiritual heart of Egypt, where temples of Ammonius stretch like a stone forest toward the heavens. The priests of Karnak hold more power than many princes, and their support may matter more than 10,000 soldiers. You send emissaries ahead, carrying gifts and carefully worded messages. You come not to plunder but to restore proper worship. Days pass in tense silence until the high priest himself comes to greet you at the dock, his retinue in gleaming white linen. He does not prostrate himself as Nubians do, but bows in measured respect. His words carry a weight deeper than weapons. Ammonius welcomes his son from the south. Inside the vast halls of Karnak, you perform rituals with precision. Incense curls upward in dim shafts of light, painted gods watching from towering columns carved with lotus and papyrus. You pour libations, present golden vessels, and bow before the sacred bark of Ammonius. The priests watch every gesture, weighing your sincerity, testing whether a Nubian king can truly be Egypt's son. You make no misstep. The oracle's voice is clear. Ammonius has chosen you. For the people of Thebes, this divine sanction outweighs politics. Word spreads quickly. The southern pharaoh honors the gods more faithfully than the quarreling princes of the north. In these sacred halls, conquest becomes consecration. For several days you remain in Thebes. Each morning brings another ceremony. Offerings of bread, beer, and oxen at shrines. Hymns sung in both Egyptian and Nubian tongues. Afternoons are spent in council with local nobles, who study you as carefully as they would a hieroglyph on stone. Some are cautious, others curious. The city's markets resume their hum, traders hawking linens, figs, and papyrus as rumors of your devotion spread. Children peer from doorways to glimpse the Nubian pharaoh who bows before Ammonius. At night you retire to guest chambers within temple precincts, your sleep guarded by incense braziers and chants drifting faintly through the walls. Thebes has not been conquered. Thebes has been convinced. One of your Nubian commanders, hardened and blunt, watches the Egyptian crowds gather to see you. He murmurs with dry humor, They seem surprised that we are civilized. His words hang in the air, a reminder of how often Egypt dismissed Nubia as a lesser land. You answer with quiet confidence. Let them be surprised. Soon they will understand our civilization is as ancient and as refined as theirs. This exchange becomes more than a jest. It is a declaration of cultural pride. Your campaign is not only military or religious, it is also a reclamation of respect, a reminder to the world that Nubia is no shadow but a sun in its own right. With Thebes secured by alliance and ritual, your fleet once more sails north. Priests bless your departure, casting flowers upon the river. Crowds line the banks to watch as drums beat a slow, steady rhythm. The sails catch the wind and the Nile bears you onward. You leave behind not smoldering ruins, but prayers rising on the breeze. The priest's endorsement follows you like a mantle, unseen yet powerful. Already word spreads upriver. The southern pharaoh is blessed. The gods of Egypt themselves have spoken. Ahead lies Hermopolis, ruled by Prince Nomlot, a man of stubborn pride. Unlike Thebes' priests, he has no desire to share power. The city's gates are barred, its walls manned by determined defenders. You give the order for siege. Camps rise around the city, trenches dug, supply lines guarded. Your archers pin the defenders to their walls with volleys that rattle shields and helmets. Engineers fashion battering rams and scaling ladders, their hammers ringing day and night. The siege is not swift, but patience is your ally. Nomlot waits for rescue that never comes. Hunger gnaws at his men. The city weakens while your army remains disciplined, well fed from supply depots established along the Nile. At last, Nomlot sends a weary messenger under a white flag. You grant terms. The city will surrender, its people spared, its leaders kept under watch but not destroyed. You march into Hermopolis with measured restraint. No looting, no flames, no chaos. Instead, guards are posted at wells, scribes at granaries, priests at temples. People watch with wide eyes. They expected the storm. Instead, they see order. For them, this mercy is more startling than any cruelty could have been. You show them that your rule is not ruin but renewal. In Nomlot's palace you find treasures, bronze, jewelry, carved furniture. But what captures your heart are the horses, tall, fine-boned creatures bred for war chariots. Yet during the siege, they were left thin, thirsty, neglected. For a moment, your royal composure cracks. Anger sharpens your voice as you confront Nomlot. You failed to care for these innocent beings. This flaw is graver than your military resistance. You order your own grooms to tend them, bringing water and barley, brushing their coats until they shine. Horses, you believe, are noble companions, gifts of the gods, not mere beasts of war. Their mistreatment is a deeper betrayal than walls raised in pride. In the days that follow, Hermopolis is restored to calm. You commission scribes to inscribe a victory stele, recording not only your triumph but the lessons of mercy and neglect. You make certain the inscription notes the mistreatment of horses, a reminder that rulership is judged not only by how one treats allies and enemies, but also how one tends the innocent. This stele will stand in stone long after memories fade, telling future generations that your reign valued order, piety, and compassion above destruction. As you stand before it, fresh-cut lines still gleaming, you know this is only one chapter in a long campaign. The Nile still stretches north, leading to more princes, more cities, more choices where mercy and strength must be weighed. Your policy of mercy spreads ahead like ripples in the Nile. Cities hear of your clemency, and many open their gates without resistance. Grain stores remain full, markets remain calm, and temples continue their rituals under your protection. Word travels faster than armies. To some Egyptians, you are no longer an invader but a restorer, a pharaoh in all but name. Yet whispers persist among those who fled north. Memphis, the ancient seat of administration, will never yield so easily. Its walls are high, its heart proud. And so, as you sail closer, the air grows heavier with anticipation. The skyline of Memphis dominates the riverbank. Massive mud brick walls tower above the waters, flanked by fortified gates painted with symbols of royal authority. The city bristles with defenders, archers on the walls, soldiers at the gates, chariots ready in the courtyards. It is the jewel of Lower Egypt, a place from which kings once ruled empires. To take Memphis is to hold the very heart of administration, the balance point between Egypt's north and south. Your generals whisper strategies at your side, weighing risks and losses. You say little, already envisioning a plan of subtle deception. In your command tent by torchlight, map spread before you, you outline the plan. A feigned assault on the city's main gates at dawn will draw the defenders' attention. Meanwhile, under cover of darkness, a portion of your fleet will land troops at a less fortified section of the wall. Timing will be everything. Too soon and the ruse collapses. Too late, and your soldiers at the gates will fall. Your generals nod, understanding the delicate dance. The strategy is bold, but boldness has carried you this far. At sunrise, trumpets blare and drums thunder as your main force advances toward the great gates. Archers unleash volleys, shields lock into tight formations, and the defenders above answer with a rain of arrows. The noise is deafening, a storm of iron and cries. From the walls, the Egyptians see only what you want them to see. A full assault, fierce and direct. Behind this thunder, your hidden flotilla glides silently, slipping men ashore where the defenses are weakest. The battle for Memphis has begun. While the defenders pour their strength into the gates, your hidden force scales the walls at an undefended angle. Grappling hooks bite into brick, ladders rise, and Nubian warriors ascend swiftly. Within moments, a cry erupts from inside the walls. Attackers have breached. Panic spreads as soldiers rush to the wrong side, leaving the gates vulnerable. With precision, you signal the main force to push harder. Gates shudder under rams, cracks forming. Memphis is caught between fire and flood, its defenders stretched too thin. By mid-morning, fighting spills into Memphis streets. Narrow lanes echo with clashing bronze and cries. Your troops, disciplined and organized, press forward with shields and spears. Defenders resist bravely, but morale crumbles as temples remain untouched, civilians unharmed. Orders are strict. Temples must not be touched, civilians must be spared. Priests emerge from sanctuaries, chanting prayers, astonished to see soldiers passing by without violence. Word spreads through alleys. The Nubian king brings conquest, yes, but with restraint. By midday, the last defenders throw down their arms. Gates are forced wide open, and your army marches through in triumphal ranks. Memphis, the heart of administration, is yours. You stand in its palace halls, beneath painted ceilings and carved thrones, symbols of Egyptian power now beneath your hand. A Nubian king rules Memphis. What once seemed unthinkable has become reality. Yet in the silence after victory, you know the conquest is not the end. It is the beginning of a greater trial, governing Egypt, not simply defeating it. The following days bring not rest, but endless counsel. Nobles, priests, and scribes are summoned to measure their loyalty. Some bow readily. Others hesitate, weighing their choices. You offer places in your administration to those who submit, weaving Egypt's own fabric into your rule. At temples, you present offerings, to Ptah, a Memphis patron, as well as to Ammonius, your guiding deity. Each gesture is deliberate, each word a stone in the foundation of legitimacy. In the streets, order is restored, markets reopen, life continues. You do not reign as a conqueror, but as pharaoh. Your generals urge pursuit of the northern princes who fled. Strike now before they regroup, they insist. But you shake your head. Egypt is vast, its governance delicate. To dismantle its structure would sow chaos. Instead, you send messengers north with terms. Submit, swear loyalty, and retain your local rule as vassals under Pharaoh. It is a startling move, rare among kings. Some generals doubt, but you explain. I have not come to destroy Egypt's governance, but to unite it under divine order. Strength with flexibility becomes your hallmark. Word of your offer spreads. One by one, northern princes send tribute, oaths, and messengers declaring loyalty. Some come in person. Others, too proud, send only gifts. Even Tefnacht, the boldest among them, sends offerings of gold and promises of peace, though he avoids your court. You accept, demonstrating strength wrapped in diplomacy. Egypt is now, at least in name, united under your rule. A Nubian pharaoh, recognized not only by priests and people, but by princes as well. Yet unity on parchment is fragile. Ahead lies the greater challenge: keeping this vast land steady beneath a single crown. The Nile stretches for over 1,000 miles between Nepeta and Memphis. How can one ruler oversee such distances? You devise a system blending Nubian and Egyptian governance. You personally travel between the two regions, maintaining visibility and authority. In each city, trusted family members, nobles, and officials act as your representatives, ensuring your decrees are faithfully executed. Egyptian administrative structures remain, but now all answer directly to you. This allows continuity for the populace while centralizing ultimate power in your hands. You understand that control is more than force. It is presence, delegation, and trust. In Memphis, you order a victory stele carved from stone, inscribed in hieroglyphics recounting your campaign. The text emphasizes your devotion to Ammonius and other gods, your piety as much as your prowess. Scribes and artisans work meticulously, ensuring every symbol, every word, conveys both power and divine sanction. This stele is not mere propaganda. It is a historical document, a record of legitimacy for generations. As you watch the craftsman, you reflect on how actions, once carved into stone, outlast rulers themselves. With Egypt stabilized, you announce a surprising decision. You will return to Nepeta. Your conquest is complete, but your homeland requires the pharaoh's presence. Your nephew Shabaka remains in Memphis as your representative, a symbol of continuity and delegated authority. Commanders murmur in surprise. Many conquerors would never leave the wealth and prestige of Egypt behind. You reply simply, "My roots are in Kush. My duty extends to both lands." The journey south is marked by celebrations at every city, reflecting both respect for your rule and relief at the stability you've brought. Before leaving Egypt fully, you journey to Giza and Saqqara. Standing in the shadows of pyramids nearly 2 millennia old, you feel awe at the scale and devotion they represent. These monuments inspire you to revive pyramid construction for royal burials, blending Nubian traditions with Egyptian grandeur. You study alignment, orientation, and symbolic placement, aware that architecture can shape both memory and legitimacy. These pyramids are more than tombs. They are bridges across time, connecting rulers to gods and future generations. The return voyage to Nepeta stretches weeks along the Nile. Each city along the river greets you with ceremonies, music, and offerings. People celebrate the new order, relieved by the stability your campaign has brought. The Nubian soldiers march with pride, their bows gleaming in the sun. On the royal barge, you observe the flow of the river, its steady course a mirror of your vision. The empire's strength lies in continuity, trade, and the careful blending of Nubian and Egyptian systems. Upon returning to Nepeta, you immediately visit the great temple of Ammonius at Jebel Barkal. In elaborate ceremonies, you dedicate spoils from Egypt: golden statues, precious jewelry, exotic materials. Priests chant prayers, incense fills the air, and crowds witness your devotion. This act reinforces your image as a pious king who shares his success with the gods. Every ritual, every offering, strengthens both divine favor and public legitimacy. Your subjects see their pharaoh not only as a conqueror, but as one deeply connected to the sacred mountain that has defined Nubia's spiritual identity for centuries. In the years that follow, you embark on ambitious building programs across Nubia and Egypt. Temples, palaces, administrative buildings rise under your guidance. Thousands of workers find employment, artisans showcase skill, and religious leaders oversee sanctuaries. Buildings are more than structures. They are symbols of power, divine favor, and cultural integration. Nubian craftsmanship blends with Egyptian techniques, creating monuments that reflect your dual heritage and your vision for a unified empire. The temple at Jebel Barkal receives particular attention. Its halls are expanded, columns added, and sanctuaries restored. Here, Nubian kingship and Egyptian divinity meet. Pilgrims come from across the Nile to witness rituals, offerings, and festivals. The temple becomes a cultural and spiritual center, symbolizing the union of two lands under one pharaoh. Through architecture and devotion, you leave a mark not only on the landscape but on the hearts of your people. Your projects are both practical and symbolic. Granaries, temples, and palaces provide sustenance, employment, and religious guidance. Each inscription, relief, and statue declares the pharaoh's divine favor and cultural sophistication. You understand that legacy is not built in battle alone. It is carved in stone, sung in ritual, and lived in the daily lives of your subjects. As you walk among completed temples and bustling markets, you see a kingdom transformed. Nubian administration, Egyptian architecture, and shared faith creating a new era of stability. Standing atop a balcony in Nepeta, you gaze northward along the Nile toward Egypt. Your empire stretches from Nubia to Memphis, a fusion of cultures, faiths, and administrations. The people know order, stability, and divine guidance. The spoils of conquest have served the gods, temples flourish, and cities thrive. Your dynasty is secure, yet you know vigilance is eternal. Even as night falls and the moon reflects on the Nile, you understand that kingship is a living, breathing task, a balance of mercy, strength, piety, and vision. Your reign as the first Nubian pharaoh of Egypt's 25th dynasty is no longer a story of conquest. It is a testament to the fusion of two great civilizations under one divine ruler. At Jebel Barkal, you oversee the expansion of the temple complex. New sanctuaries are added, monumental gateways rise, and courtyards grow to accommodate pilgrims. Every column and relief is meticulously aligned with religious symbolism. The temple becomes the spiritual heart of the kingdom, a place where Egyptian traditions converge with Nubian identity. Priests and artisans collaborate under your guidance, ensuring that the sacred architecture reflects both divine order and royal ideology. Festivals, rituals, and daily worship revolve around this central sanctuary, solidifying its significance. You commission the construction of royal pyramids at Uluru near Nepeta. Steep-sided, smaller than Egypt's Giza pyramids, yet unmistakable in design, these monuments symbolize the Kushite connection to Egyptian tradition while asserting your dynasty's unique identity. Workers carve stones carefully, aligning the structures with celestial markers. These pyramids will become enduring symbols of your rule, linking Nubia to ancient Egypt in the eyes of both your subjects and posterity. Life as ruler of two lands is relentless. Dawn begins with purification rituals and prayers. Meetings follow with officials reporting on agriculture, taxes, military readiness, and foreign relations. You personally judge legal cases, setting standards for justice throughout the empire. Your presence demonstrates both authority and fairness. Every day, decisions are layered, administrative, spiritual, and strategic. As pharaoh, you embody divine oversight, ensuring the empire thrives through wisdom rather than fear alone. Religious duties dominate your calendar. Sacred days require offerings, processions, and temple rituals. You participate personally in festivals, observing and performing prayers to Ammonius, Amun-Ra, and other gods. Priests assist in ceremonies, ensuring correct rites. Each act is a reaffirmation of your divine legitimacy. From Nubia to Memphis, temples witness your devotion, solidifying both spiritual authority and the loyalty of the people. Your role is not symbolic alone. It is a living bridge between heaven and earth. You personally review plans for temples, palaces, and administrative buildings. Materials, inscriptions, and architectural designs are all scrutinized. Workers, architects, and priests collaborate, guided by your vision. These projects are permanent markers of your reign, reflecting your ideology, piety, and cultural duality. Each structure will stand for millennia, a visible testament to the harmony of Nubian and Egyptian traditions under your rule. Your reign blends Egyptian and Nubian traditions. Royal iconography mixes the double crown of Egypt with Nubian symbols. Official documents use both hieroglyphics and Meroitic script. Wives from Nubian noble families maintain your connection to Kush, while Egyptian marriages bind local elites to your dynasty. Children learn both cultures, religious texts, administrative systems, languages, and traditions. This dual upbringing ensures future rulers can govern an empire of diverse peoples with legitimacy and insight. Decades pass and your empire prospers. Nubian administration, Egyptian architecture, and shared religious practices solidify loyalty. Farmers thrive, markets flourish, and temples are centers of community life. You witness the maturation of an empire built on both conquest and careful governance. While age weighs upon you, the stability achieved is a testament to skill, wisdom, and divine favor. Your name is recorded alongside Egypt's great pharaohs, a Nubian king acknowledged as true sovereign. Aware of your mortality, you plan carefully. Your nephew Shibaka, proven in Memphis, is chosen as successor. He is trained in governance, administration, and religious rites. Advisors, generals, and priests are instructed to support a smooth transition. By securing succession, you ensure the dynasty endures beyond your lifetime, maintaining the stability and legitimacy you've built through decades of effort, strategy, and devotion. You commission a pyramid at El Kuru for your final resting place. The tomb includes a mummification chamber and treasures to sustain you in the afterlife. Walls are decorated with scenes of you among gods. Particularly Amenare, artisans, priests, and scribes work together to create a space befitting a divine pharaoh. This preparation reflects both piety and an understanding of mortality. Your final monument is both spiritual and political, securing memory and reverence for eternity. As age approaches and life draws to its natural close, you face death with the dignity and composure that have defined your reign. Surrounded by sacred amulets, inscriptions, and treasures, you reflect on a lifetime of conquest, governance, and devotion. Your empire endures, stable, culturally integrated, and respected. Your dynasty, rooted in Nubia and extended into Egypt, ensures that your vision continues. Even in death, the pharaoh remains a bridge between gods and humans, Nubia and Egypt, past and future. The double crown sits heavily on your head as you survey the empire you've inherited. Nubia and Egypt stretch beneath your rule, linked by the Nile. Citizens, officials, and priests await guidance. Unlike your uncle, you choose Memphis as your primary residence, emphasizing centralized governance. As the new pharaoh, your daily rituals mirror your uncle's but are personalized. Prayers, offerings, and ceremonies reflecting your specific devotion to traditional Egyptian practices. Every action demonstrates piety, reinforcing your divine legitimacy. Your attendants dress you in ceremonial robes and jewels. The anointing oils are applied with precision, incense burns, and prayers to Ammonius and Tar echo softly in the palace chambers. Today, a special dedication awaits. You meditate quietly, feeling the weight of history and the importance of preserving sacred knowledge. Each bead of perfume, each gesture is deliberate. Ritual ensures both spiritual alignment and political authority, reminding all that the pharaoh is not merely human but the earthly conduit of divine will. You approach the Temple of Tar for the dedication ceremony. The Shabaka stone, carved from black basalt, stands ready. It preserves ancient myth theology, detailing how the god Tar created the world through heart, understanding, and tongue. Priests stand at attention, chanting, incense curling through the air. Citizens line the processional path, curious and reverent. The stone symbolizes continuity, linking Memphis, the gods, and your dynasty. As you lay hands upon the monument, you feel the weight of eternity, knowing this act preserves wisdom for millennia. Your procession winds through Memphis, a mix of ceremonial grandeur and public spectacle. Soldiers march, priests chant, and citizens kneel in awe. Exotic banners flutter in the wind. As the new pharaoh, Every movement demonstrates authority and reverence. You nod solemnly to the priests and officials, maintaining composure. The city is alive with color, sound, and devotion. Children watch wide-eyed. Elders whisper prayers of gratitude. Every step reinforces your legitimacy as both a ruler and a custodian of tradition. Inside the Temple of Tar, the Shabaka stone is formally dedicated. You recite prayers, and priests repeat sacred texts. Citizens and officials witness the event, ensuring communal recognition of the act. Offerings of bread, wine, and incense are placed before the stone. The air is thick with devotion. By preserving this ancient knowledge, you assert your role as a restorer, linking the past to your reign. Future generations will read these words and understand both the god's creation and the enduring legitimacy of your dynasty. The temple ritual concludes. The priests acclaim you as divinely chosen, strengthening your position among Egyptians and Nubians alike. Diplomats and nobles present gifts and oaths of loyalty. Your presence confirms that the Kushite dynasty respects Egyptian religious tradition. By intertwining political authority with religious legitimacy, you stabilize your rule. The Shabaka stone is now a symbol of that authority, a visible and enduring testament to both piety and power. After the dedication, you convene with officials to discuss governance. Reports arrive from provinces along the Nile. Agriculture, taxation, and military readiness are reviewed. You note areas needing attention, adjust policies, and issue new decrees. Advisors admire your focus. Even after ceremonial duties, your mind remains sharp. Effective governance is the invisible arm that ensures the dynasty's survival. By personally overseeing administration, you reinforce the idea that a pharaoh is both divine and practical. You meet with Egyptian nobles and Nubian emissaries. Alliances are reinforced through marriage, land grants, and trade agreements. Cultural integration is emphasized. Egyptian elites recognize Kushite legitimacy, while Nubian traditions remain strong in southern provinces. Through diplomacy, you avoid unnecessary conflicts, ensuring loyalty through respect rather than fear. The empire grows cohesive, a blend of ancient traditions united under your rule. Even after political and religious duties, daily life requires attention to personal rituals and courtly presence. Meals are taken in moderation, counsel received throughout the day, and inspection of royal projects continues. Scholars present texts, builders update temple and palace construction, and military reports keep you informed. Each day blends ceremonial, administrative, and strategic tasks. Life as pharaoh is continuous, a balance of duty, devotion, and vigilance. As evening falls, you contemplate the legacy you are building. The Shabaka stone preserves ancient theology. Administration, diplomacy, and religious authority secure stability. Nubian culture flourishes alongside Egyptian tradition. Your actions today will resonate for centuries. The dynasty you lead is established, resilient, and respected. From your palace balcony, you gaze at Memphis, imagining a future where generations honor both the gods and the pharaohs who bridged two civilizations. Guards clear the streets, musicians play solemn melodies, and priests carry sacred emblems. Citizens prostrate themselves, watching a living god pass. The Nile glistens in the morning light, reflecting the golden crowns and ceremonial banners that line your path. The Temple of Tar, one of Memphis's most ancient sanctuaries, rises majestically before you. Its stone pylons tower over the city streets, adorned with hieroglyphs depicting gods and kings, a silent testament to centuries of devotion. The temple interior offers cool relief from the day's heat. Incense smoke curls upward, blending with the dim light from oil lamps. The black basalt Shabaka stone gleams in the center of the main hall, polished to perfection. Priests chant ancient prayers, and you prepare for the dedication ceremony. The walls are adorned with murals depicting creation myths and the deeds of past pharaohs, connecting the divine with the mortal realm. Every detail emphasizes continuity, culture, and sacred order. The ceremony begins. Offerings of bread, wine, and incense are placed before the Shabaka stone. You read aloud portions of the sacred text, your voice echoing through the chambers. Priests repeat each phrase in unison, reinforcing the sanctity of your act. Citizens and officials observe silently. By preserving this ancient wisdom, you assert your legitimacy. Though Nubian by birth, you are the true guardian of Egyptian tradition, demonstrating devotion that earns respect across the realm. After the temple ceremony, you return to the palace to address governance. Unlike your Uncle Pa, a warrior king, your approach emphasizes cultural and religious revival. Advisors report from provinces. Taxes collected, harvests favorable, armies disciplined. Peace prevails in most regions, but dissent arises. A Delta noble questions whether a Nubian can rule Egypt legitimately. You consider the matter carefully, choosing strategy over force, planning to demonstrate cultural and religious superiority rather than punish through violence. You command the dissenting noble brought to Memphis, not in chains but treated with honor. I will show him devotion to Egyptian traditions surpassing his own, you declare. Publicly demonstrating piety and respect, you reinforce that Kushite rulers are not foreign conquerors but legitimate custodians of Egyptian values. This careful balance of diplomacy, ritual, and moral authority distinguishes your reign, ensuring loyalty through example and reverence rather than fear. Later, you meet with architects overseeing Egypt-wide building projects. Temples are being restored and expanded, particularly in Karak and Luxor. The hypo-style hall at Karak is nearing completion, its massive columns intricately carved. You inspect plans on papyrus scrolls, approving designs that incorporate Kushite stylistic elements. The projects honor the gods, provide work for thousands, and create visible symbols of your dynasty's power and piety. Your architectural choices reflect a blend of Egyptian and Kushite traditions. Column styles, decorative motifs, and inscriptions mark these projects as products of your reign. By merging cultures, you visually demonstrate the unity of Nubia and Egypt. These efforts reinforce legitimacy, show respect for ancient traditions, and create a lasting impression on both citizens and future generations. Every structure is a message of authority, piety, and cultural continuity. Evening brings family duties. Your sister Amonis has been installed as God's wife of Ammonius in Thebes, one of the most influential religious offices in Egypt. She effectively governs Upper Egypt on your behalf, controlling temple wealth and properties. Reports arrive from her via a trusted messenger. By placing loyal family members in key religious positions, you secure political stability and maintain a firm connection between Nubia and Egypt. The strategy begun by your uncle continues under your rule. Your sister's position ensures control over Upper Egypt's religious infrastructure. Through her, you influence rituals, temple wealth, and priestly appointments. This careful placement of family members in sacred offices mirrors military strategy, securing loyalty and authority where direct oversight is impossible. The Kushite dynasty demonstrates foresight, intertwining governance, religion, and family to maintain a cohesive empire. As night falls over Memphis, you contemplate the day's accomplishments. Sacred texts preserved, temples restored, dissent addressed with wisdom, and family positioned strategically. The empire thrives under your balanced approach: devotion, cultural revival, and practical governance. You feel the weight of responsibility but also the satisfaction of progress. Your dynasty is secured, your legacy growing, and the Nile Valley united under your thoughtful, scholarly reign. You sit in your private study, carefully reviewing reports from your sister Amonis. She details religious ceremonies performed, temple offerings made, and administrative decisions that stabilize Thebes. Her vigilance ensures the city remains loyal, a critical northern stronghold. You take note of minor disputes among priests, local officials, and traders, making mental notes for potential interventions. Each word reinforces how family placement in key offices strengthens your dynasty's control. Night falls, and for the first time, you share a private meal with your wife Buchanan, children, and close relatives. The atmosphere is warm, though formality persists subtly. Conversations flow in both Egyptian and Nubian languages, your children absorbing lessons from two cultures simultaneously. Your eldest son, Shibitku, watches closely, learning the balance of wisdom, piety, and authority that will one day define his rule. Later, you open a diplomatic message from Assyria. King Sargon II sends greetings, but underlying tension is evident. The Assyrian Empire grows along the Levant, influencing trade routes and neighboring territories. You consult your foreign affairs advisor, discussing strategic responses. Maintaining cordial relations is essential, yet the Eastern Delta and Sinai must be reinforced to secure Kushite influence. You understand this distant threat will shape geopolitics for decades. Before retiring, you perform private devotions to Ammonius Ra and other deities. Candles flicker on the altar, incense curls upward, and small amulets glint in the dim light. Prayers focus on guidance, protection, and divine favor for Egypt and Nubia alike. These moments reinforce the dual legitimacy of your reign, as a ruler and as a divine intermediary chosen by the gods. Religious devotion is inseparable from political authority, a truth understood by all in the Kushite dynasty. As sleep approaches, you reflect on achievements and challenges. Stability, religious revival, and bicultural governance define your rule. Nubian identity remains strong even as Egyptian traditions flourish under your guidance. The Kushite dynasty continues to solidify its legitimacy, and the Nile Valley thrives under careful, pious leadership. Your thoughts drift toward the future: heirs, succession, and the continuation of the remarkable Black Pharaoh lineage. Years pass, and your life draws to a close. You face death with dignity, knowing the dynasty is secure. Your body undergoes the full Egyptian mummification process, adorned with amulets and offerings. Burial occurs at Uluru in Nubia, following the traditions set by Pa and Pianki. Your nephew Shabku succeeds you, continuing the Kushite administration, supporting temples, and maintaining vigilance against external threats such as Assyria. Shabku takes the double crown as the third Kushite pharaoh. His reign is brief but steady, upholding policies established by predecessors. Religious institutions remain strong, trade routes secure, and Assyrian influence carefully monitored. Though his accomplishments are overshadowed by later rulers, his actions consolidate the dynasty, setting the stage for the next generation to flourish. Imagine now Tahara, fourth ruler of the Kushite dynasty, ascending to the throne as a young man. His coronation takes place at Tanis in the Nile Delta, a powerful symbolic act asserting control from Nubia to Egypt's northern reaches. The double crown is placed upon his head, signifying both political authority and divine responsibility. Tahara intends to elevate the dynasty to even greater heights, blending ambition with religious devotion. The crown embodies divine and political power. Tahara understands that rulership is not merely military or administrative. It is sacred. Priests chant blessings, incense spirals upward, and the Nile's waters glint under the rising sun. The ceremony reinforces both his legitimacy and the continuity of Kushite rule. His actions signal to Egyptians and Nubians alike that the dynasty is prepared to lead with wisdom, piety, and cultural awareness. Following the coronation, Tahara meets with key advisors and family members. Plans for governance, temple restorations, and military readiness are discussed. He studies maps of Egypt and Nubia, familiarizing himself with strategic locations and potential threats. Tahara's youth is tempered by knowledge, ritual, and the example of his predecessors. His reign promises ambition tempered by reverence for tradition and the delicate art of ruling two culturally rich lands. You are now the living embodiment of Horus, the mediator between gods and humans, responsible for maintaining cosmic order. The early years of your reign fulfill your ambitions. You prove to be the greatest builder of the Kushite dynasty, commissioning temples, palaces, and monuments throughout Egypt and Nubia. Your name is inscribed on columns and statues from the Delta to the Fourth Cataract, destined to endure for millennia. At Karak, you construct a magnificent colonnade in the temple court with columns topped by open papyrus capitals. Towering nearly 70 feet high, covered with exquisite relief carvings, these columns symbolize the connection between humans and gods. Though time will leave only one standing, it testifies to your architectural vision and enduring influence. In your Nubian homeland at Jebel Barkal, you expand the sacred complex dedicated to Ammonius. The Temple of Mut, consort of Ammonius, is carved directly into the mountain's rock face. Reliefs depict you making offerings, legitimizing your rule through divine approval. Pilgrims and priests visit the site, strengthening your spiritual authority across Nubia and Egypt. Your building projects are not only ceremonial. You order new irrigation systems to improve agricultural productivity and wells dug in desert regions to support trade. Ordinary people benefit, while your economic and military position strengthens. Skilled engineers and laborers work under your supervision, blending pragmatic infrastructure with religiously sanctioned authority. One morning, while reviewing plans for a new temple at Kawar, a messenger arrives. Prostrating himself, he reports, Assyrian forces have invaded the Levant in unprecedented numbers. Tributary city-states appeal for Egypt's protection. Your focus now shifts from internal consolidation to the looming external threat, a challenge that will define the latter part of your reign. You convene an emergency council with military commanders and advisors. Maps of the Levant and advancing Assyrian positions are spread before you. The region has long been a buffer protecting Egypt's northeastern frontier. You declare, "We must support our vassals." Preparations begin to mobilize the army, a decision setting the stage for historic campaigns beyond Egypt's borders. Your army engages Assyrian forces, successfully protecting Egyptian allied cities in the Levant. Victory monuments are commissioned to commemorate this success, though you do not yet realize the permanence of the threat. Diplomacy and military prowess intertwine, signaling the growing complexity of international relations. You forge alliances with powers also fearing Assyrian expansion. One key partnership is with King Hezekiah of Judah, resisting Assyrian domination. These interactions enter religious and historical texts, preserving your intervention in memory for millennia. Diplomacy reinforces the Kushite dynasty's role as protector of Egypt's interests abroad. The Hebrew Bible later records your support of Judah against Assyrian king Sennacherib. Assyrian forces mysteriously withdraw after your intervention, a remarkable achievement blending diplomacy, military strategy, and religious authority. This event underscores the far-reaching consequences of your reign beyond Egypt and Nubia. Despite early successes, the Assyrian threat grows. Their advanced iron weaponry, siege equipment, and sheer numbers make them formidable. Tahara knows that future campaigns will demand constant vigilance, clever strategy, and resourceful diplomacy. The remainder of your reign will be defined by balancing internal prosperity with external security. Your kingdoms of Egypt and Kush, though wealthy and sophisticated, struggle to match Assyria's military innovations. Reports arrive of Esarhaddon's preparations. His armies equipped with advanced iron weapons, siege engines, and disciplined formations unseen in Egypt. You convene your generals, studying maps and debating strategies, knowing the coming conflict will test every skill of your leadership. In 671 BC, disaster strikes. Esarhaddon launches a massive invasion of Egypt. Despite valiant resistance, your forces are overwhelmed. Memphis falls, and you are forced to retreat southward to Thebes. For the first time, Kushite control of Egypt is seriously threatened. Panic and uncertainty ripple through your officials and subjects alike. From Thebes, you reorganize your forces. Your generals advise caution, but you plan a counterattack. The months that follow are grueling, as morale must be restored, supplies gathered, and defenses reinforced along the Nile. Your focus is steadfast. Reclaim Egypt while preserving your army and the lives of your people. Intelligence reports that Esarhaddon has withdrawn the bulk of his forces to address matters elsewhere. Seizing this opportunity, you advance rapidly northward, recapturing Memphis. The people cheer your return, and temples are reopened. Victory monuments are erected, celebrating the restored Kushite authority. In 669 BCE, Esarhaddon's son, Ashurbanipal, resumes the invasion. This time, the Assyrian forces are overwhelming, pushing beyond Memphis to Thebes itself. Your army fights fiercely but cannot hold. The fall of Thebes marks a devastating blow. Temples are plundered, treasures carried away, and Kushite control of Egypt collapses. The plundering of Thebes is traumatic. 2 massive obelisks are dismantled and sent to Nineveh, a symbol of the kingdom's vulnerability. Religious artifacts, treasures, and sacred texts vanish from Egyptian temples, leaving a profound cultural and spiritual loss. Forced to retreat, you return to your Nubian homeland. Nepeta becomes the center of your rule once again. Though Egypt is lost, you retain royal dignity, religious authority, and the loyalty of your Nubian subjects. The focus shifts to consolidating your kingdom, maintaining stability, and preserving the dynasty's cultural and spiritual legacy. In Nubia, you continue ambitious building projects, particularly at Nuri. There, you establish a royal cemetery and commission your own pyramid tomb, larger than those of your predecessors. This monumental effort affirms Kushite identity and ensures the dynasty's enduring presence, even as political control of Egypt fades. Though Egypt is lost, your reign is remembered as one of the greatest of the 25th dynasty. Architectural achievements, cultural patronage, and military campaigns leave indelible marks. Religious revival continues, influencing Egyptian culture long after Kushite political authority ends. Your dynasty's distinctive artistic and cultural style blends Egyptian and Nubian traditions. When death finally comes, you are buried with appropriate ceremony in your pyramid at Nuri. Your successor, Tantamani, attempts one last effort to reclaim Egypt, briefly retaking Memphis before being permanently driven back. The 25th dynasty's political rule over Egypt ends, but its legacy endures. Nearly a century of Nubian pharaohs brought stability, religious revival, and cultural flourishing. Sacred texts, pyramids, and artistic innovations ensure your story is remembered. The sun rises over your mud brick home along the Nile. You wake to the sounds of livestock stirring and the faint smell of morning fires. Outside, the village comes alive. Children run barefoot along the dusty paths, women carry water from the river, and men prepare for a day of labor in the fields. The warmth of the day is already beginning to build, promising the relentless heat of the desert sun. Inside your home, you begin the morning rituals of domestic life. Clay pots are filled with water, grain is ground into flour, and cooking fires are tended. Your family participates in all these tasks, with children learning essential skills from their elders. Daily life is labor-intensive, but community ties and shared responsibility make it manageable. As the floodwaters recede, you walk to your fields. The fertile silt left behind makes the soil rich, ideal for planting wheat, barley, and flax. Irrigation channels direct the remaining waters to dry areas, a system your ancestors refined over centuries. The work is backbreaking, digging furrows, sowing seeds, and ensuring young plants are adequately watered. Alongside farming, your household tends goats, cattle, and poultry. Livestock provides milk, meat, hides, and labor. Villagers also engage in small-scale trade, exchanging surplus grain, textiles, or crafted goods at weekly markets. These markets connect even remote communities to the broader economic network of the Kushite kingdom. Some villagers are artisans. Potters shape clay into vessels, weavers create mats and garments, and metalworkers fashion tools or decorative items. Even ordinary households rely on these specialized skills to maintain daily life. The wealth accumulated by the Kushite pharaohs trickles down through patronage, providing opportunities for craftsmen to prosper. Religious observance is woven into every aspect of daily life. Before work, families offer small prayers to household gods and river spirits, asking for protection and abundant harvests. Festivals honoring Ammonius, Hathor, or local deities bring the village together for music, dancing, and feasting, connecting ordinary people to the divine order upheld by the pharaoh. Children learn by observing their parents and through oral instruction. Boys might be taught farming, archery, or trade skills, while girls learn weaving, cooking, and household management. Storytelling preserves history and mythology. Tales of Pa, Tahara, and other Black Pharaohs remind villagers of the empire they serve. Life is not without hardship. Droughts, disease, or disruptions in the Nile's flood can threaten survival. Villagers adapt through communal effort, sharing resources, repairing irrigation, or storing surplus grain. Even under a powerful pharaoh, human life is bound to the vagaries of nature. Despite laborious routines, festivals bring joy and social cohesion. Music, dance, and communal meals punctuate the agricultural calendar. During major religious ceremonies, villagers travel to regional temples, witnessing the pharaoh's influence and participating in rituals that link the divine, royal, and common spheres. As the sun sets, the village quiets. Families gather for the evening meal, stories are told, and lamps illuminate mud-brick homes. Outside, the Nile reflects the colors of dusk, reminding all of the eternal rhythm that sustains life. Though they may never walk in a palace or wield armies, the villagers' labor, faith, and craft form the foundation of the Kushite Empire. The shaduf, a simple counterweight device, raises water from the Nile to irrigate fields beyond the natural floodplain. Families take turns operating it, the rhythmic motion of the pole creaking as the bucket empties into stone channels. More advanced irrigation systems powered by oxen extend cultivation even further, allowing the kingdom to feed its population and generate surplus for trade. Sorghum and millet dominate the fields, their resilience to drought ensuring food security. Barley is also cultivated, not only for consumption but for brewing beer, a staple in Nubian culture. Seasonal vegetables like onions, leeks, and cucumbers supplement the diet, while occasional fruit trees provide rare sweetness. Inside the home, women grind grain using stone mortars and pestles, their muscles straining as they produce flour for bread. The flat, dense cakes cook on open clay griddles, forming the staple of the family's diet. Occasionally, dates or honey are added for special occasions, but for most days, the bread is simple and nourishing. Children, especially girls, carry water in clay jars balanced on their heads. The skill is learned early, taught by older siblings or mothers. Water is vital not only for cooking and drinking, but for ritual purification before prayers. The river is the lifeblood of the village, providing sustenance, ritual significance, and a connection to the broader world. Smaller livestock like goats, sheep, and chickens are tended carefully. They provide meat, milk, and eggs, supplementing the grain-based diet. Larger cattle are prized for wealth and labor, though only wealthier households typically own them. The care of animals requires constant attention, feeding, watering, and protection from predators. By mid-morning, the heat intensifies. Villagers collaborate to plant, irrigate, or harvest fields. Communal labor ensures efficiency, reinforces social bonds, and spreads knowledge. Elders coordinate efforts, while local officials appointed by the pharaoh ensure agricultural output meets both local needs and state demands. Plots are organized through a combination of communal and family ownership. Some fields are shared for collective planting, while others belong to specific families, generating both subsistence and surplus. Records of allocation are maintained, sometimes using meotic script, reflecting the administrative sophistication of Kushite governance. Not all villagers farm. Potters create distinctive black-topped redware using precise firing techniques. Weavers, leatherworkers, and metalworkers supply essential tools, garments, and household goods. Goldsmiths craft jewelry for elites, reflecting Kushite control over rich gold-producing regions. Crafts are practical, artistic, and economically vital. Villagers bring surplus grain, pottery, and crafts to weekly markets. Merchants from distant settlements exchange exotic goods, connecting local economies to the empire. Barter and coinage circulate, fostering regional trade networks. Markets are hubs of information, gossip, and news about the pharaoh's court. As evening approaches, families offer prayers to household and river deities. The sun sets over the Nile, casting long shadows across the village. Lamps illuminate homes as the scent of cooking fires mingles with incense from small shrines. The people rest, replenishing strength for another day of toil, faith, and communal life under the Black Pharaohs. Jewelry made of gold, copper, and semi-precious stones adorns the population. Wealthier households display elaborate necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. Simpler pieces are worn by farmers and artisans. The designs often include symbols of protection, prosperity, or devotion to deities. At the peak of the sun, villagers pause work to eat the main meal. Bread, thick nutritious beer, and vegetable stews provide sustenance. Meat is rare for ordinary households. Beer, low in alcohol but high in calories, is consumed by all ages as a safe, nourishing beverage. Families rest in shaded areas, socializing quietly or tending to children. After the midday rest, work resumes. Boys accompany fathers to fields or workshops. Girls learn household management, weaving, or pottery alongside mothers. Practical education ensures the next generation masters essential skills, from grain grinding to irrigation maintenance. As the heat subsides, village markets bustle. Farmers, craftsmen, and merchants exchange goods. Grain, pottery, textiles, small livestock, and tools. Barter dominates daily trade, but gold rings of standardized weight circulate for larger transactions or payments to royal officials. Royal officials collect a portion of produce or crafted goods, ensuring the pharaoh's court, temples, and army are funded. Local headmen oversee compliance and maintain records, balancing authority with respect for community needs. Taxes and resources often return as tangible benefits. Irrigation channels are repaired, grain storage facilities built, and small temples restored. Farmers notice improved water flow, artisans benefit from commissioned projects, and villagers participate in construction under guidance. As evening descends, families perform domestic rituals. Small figurines, amulets, and water for purification create personal sacred spaces. Offerings of bread, beer, or incense connect household members to the divine, echoing the rituals of grand temples on a smaller scale. Animals are fed, cooking fires tended, tools cleaned. Women and children may repair clothing or pottery. Men often inspect fields or irrigation systems, ensuring readiness for the next day's labor. Community cooperation continues as households assist one another. Children of temple or administrative families engage in more formal instruction. Egyptian hieroglyphics, Meotic script, religious texts, and accounting practices are taught by scribes. This education ensures future leaders can serve the pharaoh effectively, bridging Kushite and Egyptian traditions. As the sun sets over the Nile, villagers gather near their homes or the riverbank. Conversations, prayers, and quiet rest mark the close of another day. Life continues in a delicate balance between labor, worship, and community, reflecting the enduring social fabric of the Kushite kingdom. In homes, small shrines house figurines of Egyptian and Nubian gods. Amun-Ra, Isis, Hathor, and the Nubian lion-headed warrior Edemak receive offerings of bread, beer, and flowers. These intimate spaces allow ordinary families to maintain spiritual connections outside grand temples. Children and pregnant women commonly wear amulets for protection. These can be simple clay or stone pendants or elaborate glassy ceramic pieces if the family has wealth. Amulets often bear divine symbols, providing spiritual safety from illness or harm. Families gather for a modest evening meal, often bread accompanied by dried fish, lentils, or vegetables. The meal is simple but nourishing, providing energy after a long day of labor and household work. After dinner, elders recount historical, mythological, and moral tales. Stories highlight the deeds of kings, gods, and trickster figures. This oral tradition preserves history and teaches social values across generations. Music accompanies daily and ceremonial life. Drums, reed flutes, rattles, and small stringed harps accompany songs and dances. Public performances celebrate festivals, weddings, and harvests, fostering social cohesion. Without artificial lighting, people follow the natural cycle of daylight. During the hottest months, families sleep on flat mud brick rooftops, spreading reed mats to catch cooling evening breezes. The annual cycle is governed by the Nile. Planting begins after floods recede, followed by maintenance, harvesting, and storage. Community labor intensifies during peak agricultural periods, ensuring food security. Religious observances mark key seasonal events: the Nile flood, harvest, and solstices. Even in villages, families conduct small ceremonies. In cities, grand processions at temples attract thousands. Life in larger centers like Naparta differs from villages. Administrative, religious, and commercial hubs concentrate scribes, priests, artisans, and merchants. Cities exhibit social stratification, specialized professions, and more elaborate architecture. Scribes record tax collections, inventory temple property, and draft correspondence. These records ensure the pharaoh's policies are implemented effectively across the empire, connecting distant villages to central governance. Priests serve in the grand temples, performing daily rituals to maintain cosmic order. Some are scribes of sacred texts, others manage temple workshops producing ceremonial items. The temples function as religious, economic, and educational centers, influencing both urban and rural life. Urban artisans create luxury goods for the elite. Jewelry inlaid with gold, faience, and precious stones, decorated weapons, fine furniture, and cosmetic palettes are crafted with precision. These crafts signify status and reflect the aesthetic sophistication of Kushite rule. In cities, social stratification is clear. Royalty and nobles occupy large compounds. Priests maintain elite status. Artisans and merchants form a prosperous middle class. Laborers and servants reside in modest dwellings. Distinctions appear in clothing, housing, and diet. The royal court operates under strict protocol. Officials and nobles wait for audience with the king, following formal rituals. Daily activities mix religious duties, administrative meetings, and strategic planning, ensuring both governance and divine legitimacy are maintained. Nobles oversee provincial administration, tax collection, and temple supervision. Many positions are hereditary, creating influential families. Their compounds include multiple rooms, courtyards, and gardens, decorated with painted plaster walls and fine furniture, signaling their elevated status. Priests are both spiritual leaders and administrators. Temples are economic hubs with workshops, granaries, and schools. Some priests rotate positions seasonally, while others hold permanent offices requiring mastery of rituals, texts, and ceremonial protocols. Urban merchants engage in trade across Africa, the Mediterranean, and the Near East. Goods include incense from Punt, timber from Lebanon, copper from Sinai, exotic animals, and ivory from Central Africa. Successful merchants acquire wealth, influence, and access to the royal court. Construction workers, porters, and domestic servants form the urban working class. Their livelihoods depend on employment, making them vulnerable to injury or illness. Slavery exists mainly for prisoners of war and their descendants, but free laborers dominate essential urban occupations. Elite residences include multiple rooms, courtyards, and plastered walls decorated with painted motifs. Middle-class homes are smaller but functional, while urban poor often occupy single-room dwellings in densely packed neighborhoods, sometimes shared with extended families. Clothing signals social rank. Elites wear pleated linen garments with colorful borders, adorned with gold collars, bracelets, and jewelry. Middle-class residents have simpler linen clothing, while laborers wear plain garments suited to manual work. Appearance visibly reinforces social distinctions. Ordinary people wear simple linen or cotton garments, with modest adornments of beads, faience, or copper. Children often remain unclothed until puberty. Personal care includes oils to protect the skin and kohl around the eyes for both practical and decorative purposes. Nubian hairstyles are intricate, featuring braided patterns that signal age, social status, and regional affiliation. Men and women alike use oils to maintain hair and skin, demonstrating the cultural importance of grooming and presentation. Elite women connected to the royal family or temple offices wield significant influence. The position of the god's wife of Ammonius grants religious authority, wealth, and political power, making these women central to governance and ritual life. Ordinary women manage households, perform agricultural labor, and produce crafts like pottery and textiles. They enjoy certain legal rights, such as property ownership, giving them more autonomy than their Egyptian counterparts. Healers combine herbal remedies with spiritual rituals. Treatments range from effective medicinal practices to divine appeals, reflecting a holistic approach to health. Life expectancy is limited, infant mortality is high, and childbirth remains a significant risk. After the Assyrian invasions, Kushite control contracts to the Nubian heartland. The royal court is permanently established at Napata, reducing Egyptian influence but preserving Kushite governance and administration. For ordinary people, daily routines continue much as before. Agriculture, craft production, and communal obligations proceed largely unaffected, though some luxury goods from Egypt are no longer available, prompting local substitutions. Temples and palaces increasingly blend indigenous Nubian styles with the Egyptian-influenced designs of the 25th dynasty. Indigenous motifs, column styles, and reliefs gain prominence, asserting Nubian identity while preserving continuity with past royal traditions. Amun-Ra continues as the principal deity, but local gods such as Apedmak gain prominence. Temples commissioned after the retreat from Egypt emphasize these deities, integrating Nubian spiritual priorities within an Egyptian framework. The kingdom's center of gravity moves southward. Napata becomes the hub of administration, culture, and religious life, reinforcing Nubia's centrality in both governance and identity. Trade networks adjust, and local craftsmanship flourishes to replace lost Egyptian imports. Around 300 BCE, the royal capital moves from Napata to Meroe, further south along the Nile. This strategic relocation marks the beginning of the Meroitic period, signaling a shift in political, cultural, and economic priorities. Meroe becomes a major iron production center, with numerous furnaces processing local ore. Skilled metalworkers produce tools, weapons, and trade goods, strengthening both the economy and military capabilities. Steep-sided Nubian pyramids continue to be built for rulers and elites near Meroe. These structures preserve Kushite funerary traditions while showcasing the kingdom's architectural identity. The Meroitic script develops fully during this period. Inspired by Egyptian hieroglyphics but representing the Kushite language, it appears alongside hieroglyphics in official inscriptions, reinforcing dual cultural heritage. Trade routes shift to emphasize connections with Central Africa and the Red Sea. Goods arrive from distant regions, including India and China, demonstrating Kush's participation in long-distance commerce. Nubian archers retain their famed skill, forming the core of the kingdom's military. They continue to provide both defense and leverage in regional politics. Distinctive Nubian pottery styles flourish, with characteristic decorative patterns marking continuity of cultural expression across centuries. Artistic traditions blend indigenous and Egyptian elements. The blending of Egyptian and indigenous Nubian religious practices persists. Temples honor both Ammonius and local deities, reflecting the kingdom's spiritual diversity and continuity. Even long after the retreat from Egypt, Kushite rulers portray themselves with symbols of Egyptian kingship, such as the double crown, reinforcing their historical claim as heirs of the 25th dynasty. For ordinary people, daily life revolves around agriculture, family, and local community. Yet the cultural pride tied to the Kushite pharaohs sustains identity and cohesion, helping the kingdom endure until the 4th century CE despite eventual decline from resource pressures and rising neighboring powers. The year is 1842. You are Karl Richard Lepsius, a European explorer standing in the scorching desert of northern Sudan. Before you rise dozens of steep-sided Nubian pyramids, imposing temples, and statues of forgotten kings, long buried beneath sand and time. Lepsius and his team carefully document inscriptions and reliefs. They realize that these kings were not merely local rulers. They had conquered and ruled Egypt as pharaohs of the 25th dynasty. For centuries, Western narratives marginalized Nubia, portraying it as a source of gold, slaves, or a cultural appendage of Egypt. The achievements of Kushite civilization were ignored or dismissed. Part of Nubia's obscurity stemmed from ancient politics. When the Assyrians expelled the Kushite rulers, they destroyed monuments. Later, Egyptian pharaohs of the 26th dynasty continued this erasure, deliberately defacing statues and inscriptions. In the 18th and 19th centuries, European scholars often refused to acknowledge Nubia as the home of sophisticated African civilizations. Racial prejudice led many to attribute Kushite achievements to non-African origins. A 19th century scholar famously insisted that the so-called Ethiopian dynasty was not of Negro but Hamitic origin, ignoring the clear African roots of the Kushite rulers. Despite prejudice, archaeology persisted. Excavations throughout the 20th century uncovered more pyramids, temples, statues, and inscriptions, slowly reconstructing the story of Nubia's rulers and society. Scholars began to appreciate Nubia's monumental architecture, complex religious systems, sophisticated art, and far-reaching trade networks. The 25th dynasty emerged as a central chapter in world history, not a peripheral footnote. Modern research emphasizes Nubia's agency and independence. Rather than existing in Egypt's shadow, Nubia influenced, conquered, and ruled Egypt while retaining its own distinct cultural identity. Today, the pyramids at Uluru, Nuri, and Meroe, along with the Shabaka stone and other inscriptions, remain tangible evidence of a remarkable civilization. The story of the Black Pharaohs survives through monuments, texts, and scholarship, inspiring renewed appreciation for Nubia's contributions to world history. The construction of the Aswan High Dam in the 1960s threatened to submerge many ancient Nubian sites beneath Lake Nasser. Emergency excavations were launched, revealing temples, tombs, and artifacts that dramatically expanded understanding of Nubia's past. Museums around the world now display Nubian treasures. The Museum of Fine Arts in Boston holds jewelry, sculpture, and pottery from the 25th dynasty. The British Museum houses the Shabaka stone with its theological text. The National Museum of Sudan showcases finds from royal tombs and temples. Despite looting, weathering, and deliberate destruction, the pyramids at Uluru, Nuri, and Meroe remain standing. Columns erected by Taharqa at Karnak still soar toward the sky, and Jebel Barkal continues to inspire awe at the sacred mountain. The 25th dynasty represents a unique reversal of traditional hierarchies. For centuries, Egypt dominated Nubia. Now, Nubian kings ruled Egypt as pharaohs, demonstrating that African political power was dynamic and fluid over time. Rather than erasing Egyptian culture, the Kushite pharaohs positioned themselves as restorers of tradition. They revived temples, supported ancient rituals, and integrated Egyptian royal iconography while preserving Nubian identity. Royal statues combined Egyptian poses and symbolism with Nubian facial features, broader faces, fuller lips, and distinctive crowns. Temple architecture incorporated Egyptian pylons and hypostyle halls, but proportions and decorative details reflected Kushite style. The ram-headed sphinxes lining approaches to Kushite temples symbolize Ammonius, central to both Egyptian and Nubian religious practice. Their stocky proportions and stylistic elements are distinctively Nubian. The 25th dynasty's religious policies reinforced Ammonius worship and revitalized temple practices across Egypt and Nubia. Their devotion reshaped the religious landscape, influencing theology long after Kushite political control ended. Kushite temples and pyramids influenced later Nubian architecture and continued to inspire builders and sculptors for centuries. Their distinctive combination of Egyptian motifs and Nubian innovations marks the era as uniquely African in character. The 25th dynasty illustrates Africa's historical sophistication, political ingenuity, and cultural creativity. Far from peripheral, Kushite Nubia shaped Egypt, left lasting religious and artistic legacies, and challenges misconceptions about Africa's role in world history. The Kushite pharaohs' devotion to traditional worship, particularly Ammonius and the Memphite theological system, ensured the survival of key religious texts. The Shabaka stone, commissioned by the second Kushite pharaoh, preserves the Memphite theology carved in black basalt, safeguarding knowledge of creation and divine order. Beyond monumental buildings, rulers like Taharqa invested in infrastructure. Irrigation channels were repaired, wells dug, and granaries constructed, directly improving agricultural productivity and the daily lives of ordinary people in Egypt and Nubia. While the 25th dynasty predated Nubia's peak iron production, it strengthened the political and economic foundations necessary for technological innovation. Later, the Meroitic period would see hundreds of iron furnaces producing tools and weapons, demonstrating Africa's technological sophistication. Kushite kings maintained diplomatic and military contacts across the Near East. Alliances with Judah, confrontations with Assyria, and engagement with other Mediterranean powers show that Kush was an active participant in the broader ancient world. Trade and diplomacy connected Kush to regions as distant as Mesopotamia, the Levant, and Central Africa. Luxury goods, exotic animals, and rare materials flowed through Nubian networks, demonstrating the kingdom's economic and political significance. Kushite monuments blended Egyptian forms with Nubian styles. Pyramids, temples, and sphinxes incorporated local aesthetics, creating a distinct visual identity that asserted both legitimacy and cultural pride. The religious policies of the 25th dynasty revived traditional Egyptian rituals while integrating Nubian deities and spiritual practices, producing a syncretic system that influenced both societies for generations. Art, writing, and royal iconography demonstrated a deliberate fusion of Egyptian and Nubian elements. Kushite rulers wore the double crown, used hieroglyphs alongside Meroitic script, and maintained indigenous customs in royal life. The story of the Black Pharaohs challenges outdated narratives of African history. Sophisticated governance, monumental architecture, religious complexity, and international diplomacy reveal that Nubia was a highly developed civilization, not a peripheral society. Kush's history spans over 2,000 years, outlasting even Rome's empire. The 25th dynasty serves as a vivid example of African political and cultural achievement, whose impact persists in archaeology, religious texts, and monuments, and whose story inspires a re-evaluation of ancient world history. Though expelled from Egypt by the Assyrians around 656 BCE, the kingdom of Kush endured and continued to thrive in its Nubian homeland. Political power shifted southward, yet cultural and religious life remained robust. The kingdom maintained administrative continuity, royal traditions, and military organization. The royal capital eventually moved from Nepeta to Meroe along the Nile, strategically positioned near iron ore sources. This relocation marks the beginning of the Meroitic period, a time of economic and technological innovation, particularly in metallurgy. The kingdom leveraged these resources to sustain its independence and trade networks. Despite political shifts, many elements of 25th dynasty culture persisted. Rulers continued to build steep-sided pyramids for burials, maintain worship of Ammonius alongside indigenous gods like Apdem, and commission art that fused Egyptian and Nubian styles. The Meroitic script evolved, enabling the kingdom to preserve its language and administration. Powerful Kushite queens, sometimes ruling independently rather than as consorts, gained prominence during the Meroitic period. These women commanded armies, negotiated diplomacy, and occasionally signed treaties with major powers such as Rome, exemplifying the significant political agency women could achieve in Nubian society. Meroe's iron production underpinned a strong economy and facilitated long-distance trade. Iron tools and weapons allowed for agricultural expansion, urban growth, and military readiness, strengthening the kingdom's resilience against external pressures while boosting its influence across Africa. Religious life continued to reflect a synthesis of Egyptian and Nubian traditions. While Ammonius remained central, local deities gained prominence. Temple architecture incorporated Egyptian forms yet bore uniquely Nubian proportions and decorative motifs. This blending reinforced a shared identity while asserting distinct local culture. By the 4th century CE, Kush's power waned due to changing trade routes, environmental degradation from intensive iron production, and pressure from emerging neighbors, particularly the Aksumite kingdom. Political fragmentation followed, yet cultural continuity persisted in new Nubian Christian kingdoms. Kushite artistic and architectural traditions influenced successor societies. Temples, pyramids, and art forms inspired Nubian Christian kingdoms, demonstrating the endurance of Kushite aesthetics and religious innovation long after political authority faded. The story of the 25th dynasty illustrates that history is complex. Power shifts, cultures intermingle, and innovation emerges from unexpected sources. Nubian rule reminds us that Africa's history cannot be understood through a narrow lens of Egyptian dominance alone. Western scholarship initially minimized Kushite achievements due to colonial-era biases and racial prejudices. Archaeology and modern research have corrected this, revealing the sophistication of Nubia, its monumental architecture, artistic traditions, literacy, and political power. The Kushite pharaohs exemplified a deliberate cultural synthesis. They adopted Egyptian royal and religious practices where useful, from iconography to rituals, while maintaining Nubian facial features, dress, and symbols in their statuary and reliefs. This careful balance allowed them to govern effectively in Egypt while asserting a distinct Nubian identity. Kushite rulers emphasized rebuilding temples, restoring monuments, and preserving sacred texts like the Shabaka stone. Their reign was not only about conquest but about safeguarding cultural heritage. These acts ensured the survival of Egyptian religious knowledge through centuries of political instability. Kings such as Taharqa demonstrated that effective rule relied on meeting people's material needs. Irrigation systems, wells, and grain storage facilities improved agricultural productivity and supported communities. Ordinary citizens benefited tangibly, reinforcing loyalty and stability alongside religious legitimacy. The pyramids, temples, and colossal statues of Nubian kings were more than architectural feats. They communicated power, religious devotion, and cultural identity. Ram-headed sphinxes and Kushite motifs blended Egyptian forms with local innovation, asserting sovereignty while honoring tradition. The story of Nubia was long obscured in Western scholarship, distorted by colonial-era prejudices. Early accounts minimized or ignored Kushite achievements, framing them as marginal or derivative of Egypt, despite evidence to the contrary. Contemporary excavations in Sudan are expanding knowledge of Kushite civilization. New technologies, satellite imaging, geophysical surveys, and DNA analysis reveal settlement patterns, burial practices, and population diversity, illuminating social and cultural structures that had been lost. For modern Sudanese people, Kushite heritage provides a profound link to a sophisticated past. The pyramids, temples, and artifacts inspire pride, appearing on currency, in tourism, and in cultural narratives that celebrate Nubia's historical achievements. Egypt is increasingly acknowledging Kushite contributions. Temples restored by Nubian pharaohs, historical texts, and shared cultural heritage are now recognized as integral to the story of ancient Egypt itself, rather than peripheral anomalies. Schools, museums, and cultural institutions highlight Kushite history, teaching about the 25th dynasty, Meroitic innovations, and Nubian contributions to art, religion, and governance. This education helps counter centuries of neglect and prejudice. Despite the political collapse of Kush, the legacy of the Black Pharaohs endures. Ongoing research, preservation, and public awareness ensure that their achievements remain visible and influential. Each discovery adds to the story, demonstrating the sophistication, resilience, and creativity of this African civilization. The 25th dynasty is now fully represented in museum exhibits and educational materials about Egypt's pharaonic past. No longer dismissed as a foreign interruption, These Black Pharaohs are acknowledged as catalysts for religious revival, monumental construction, and cultural flourishing. The story of the Black Pharaohs underscores Africa's pivotal place in early world history. Nubian rulers who conquered Egypt exemplify how power, innovation, and culture were not confined to a single region. From kings and queens to priests, artisans, engineers, and ordinary citizens, the 25th dynasty illustrates the collective effort behind a vibrant civilization. Each contributed to political, religious, and cultural life, leaving enduring monuments. When viewing pyramids at Meroe, ram-headed sphinxes at Jebel Barkal, or Taharqa statues in museums, we encounter more than artifacts. They are enduring symbols of governance, cultural synthesis, and spiritual devotion. The Black Pharaohs redefined relations between Nubia and Egypt. They ruled not as mere conquerors but as legitimate pharaohs, blending traditions and creating a cultural synthesis that endured for generations. The rediscovery of Kushite history challenges conventional narratives that excluded African civilizations. Studying these overlooked stories provides a fuller understanding of human history. The Kushite legacy inspires modern scholars, artists, and writers. Their monuments, inscriptions, and artifacts provide both evidence and inspiration, demonstrating the longevity and creativity of this civilization. Watching the procession of a Nubian pharaoh through a grand temple evokes lessons on power, identity, and cultural exchange. It reminds us that conquest, governance, and religious devotion are intertwined with innovation and diplomacy. The story of the Black Pharaohs highlights the complexity of history. Conquered peoples became conquerors, and cultural influence flowed both southward and northward. The past is neither linear nor uniform. Though they ruled nearly 3,000 years ago, the Kushite pharaohs' achievements remain deeply relevant. Their story demonstrates Africa's central role in world history, the value of cultural synthesis, and the resilience of human societies. They were conquerors but also restorers, scholars, builders, and devout worshippers. They showed that power is not merely wielded. It is earned through service, piety, and the enduring imprint left on culture and society. From the temples at Karak to the monumental complexes at Jebel Barkal, from the Shabaka stone to the pyramids of Meroe, the Kushites created a civilization that blended Egyptian tradition with Nubian identity, leaving an indelible mark on the Nile Valley and beyond. Their story reminds us that history is never one-sided. The currents of power flow in many directions. The conquered may become conquerors, traditions may intertwine, and civilizations once forgotten can reclaim their place in memory and scholarship. The ordinary people, too, farmers, artisans, priests, children, were the lifeblood of the kingdom. Their labor, craft, and faith sustained dynasties, built monuments, and nurtured the cultural achievements that survive to this day. In recognizing their achievements, we see the full tapestry of human history. Complex, interconnected, and rich in diversity, Africa was not a periphery. It was a center of innovation, art, and governance. As night falls, the stars shimmer above the desert. Across millennia, the pyramids and temples stand as silent witnesses. They remind us that greatness is measured not only by the crowns worn or battles fought, but by the enduring knowledge, culture, and inspiration left behind. The Black Pharaohs may have ruled nearly 3,000 years ago, but their legacy endures. It challenges us to see history in its full richness, to honor those who came before, and to recognize that human creativity, resilience, and achievement know no boundaries of geography, race, or time. Fade out to the night sky over Nubia. The Nile flows endlessly. The legacy of Kush lives on,